Hey there, welcome to Sleepy History Secrets, the channel where history gets strange but the voice stays calm. Tonight we're asking a simple question that becomes less simple the longer you think about it. What if you woke up in medieval times? Not as a knight, not as royalty, but as, well, you. Dropped into a small village somewhere in the 13th or 14th century, where dawn smells of smoke and livestock, and survival depends on remembering which bucket is for water and which one isn't. This isn't the kind of time travel with gadgets or glowing portals. It's slower, softer, and much more inconvenient. A story about confusion, chores, smells, jokes, and the quiet, accidental way you become part of something older than yourself. But before you settle in and get cozy, please take a quiet moment to like the video or subscribe. Only if you truly enjoy falling asleep to humanity's bad decisions. And when you're ready, drop a comment telling where you're listening from and what time it is right now. It's oddly comforting to know how many of us are awake at the wrong hour, each in our own little corner of history. Now, dim the lights, let a fan hum softly in the background, and imagine this. You open your eyes, and everything familiar, screens, traffic, light switches, is gone. If your mind drifts, that's perfectly fine. We'll still be here, quietly unfolding the story. You wake before memory does. The air feels heavy, like a blanket that hasn't been washed in a century. Something crackles faintly nearby. The smell tells you it's not electricity but wood, or something pretending to be wood. You open your eyes, and the ceiling stares back at you, a patchwork of beams, straw, and smoke stains that look suspiciously like theology. For a brief, hopeful moment, you think this is a themed Airbnb. Then a pig snorts in the corner, the hope dies quietly, you sit up. Straw crunches under your elbows. It's not so much a bed as a well-meaning haystack with commitment issues. A draft sneaks in through the wall, cold enough to make your breath visible. The room is dim, lit only by a slit of light leaking through something that might be animal gut stretched across a frame. It's technically a window, though it has the transparency of weak soup. Your brain does what brains do best in a crisis. It denies everything. Maybe you're dreaming. Maybe someone slipped something into your tea. Maybe this is an immersive history exhibition that went too far. You reach for your phone by reflex, but your hand meets only air, a cup carved from wood, and what might be yesterday's bread. There's no signal, no Wi-Fi, no "Hey Siri," only a rooster outside performing its life's work with exhausting sincerity. The floor is dirt. Not earth-toned tiles, but actual earth. A cold, uneven surface that remembers every boot that stepped on it. You notice your feet are bare. At least the medieval aesthetic is thorough. You stand up too fast and hit your head on a beam that has been waiting centuries for this moment. Dust rains down, glittering faintly in the shaft of light. You cough, and the room replies with the echo of a goat. Somewhere beyond the wall, a bucket splashes. A woman mutters in a language half understood, and a child laughs the way only a child can. Without mercy. Outside, the morning hums. Not the electric hum of machines, but the human kind. Footsteps, chatter, the clatter of a pot, the low rhythm of chores beginning. Every sound is rounder, slower, alive. You hear the village before you see it, a heartbeat made of bells and breath. You push open the door, a heavy plank of wood that sticks as if the house would rather you stay inside, and step out into another century. The light hits you like honesty. The sky is wide, the colour of milk diluted by fog. Smoke curls from low roofs. Chickens patrol the street like unpaid security. The air tastes of ash and bread, and something you can't quite name. Probably cow. People are already at work. A man swings an axe with the calm of repetition. Two women carry baskets twice their size. Nobody looks surprised to see you, which is either a good sign or a very bad one. You nod awkwardly, they nod back, the universal sign for "we don't know you, but you're holding a bucket so you must belong." You glance down, You are in fact holding a bucket. It's dented, wooden, and filled with absolutely nothing. The medieval symbol for potential. You have no idea what to do with it, so you follow the nearest person who seems to know where water comes from. She doesn't speak, but gestures toward a well. You nod, trying to look competent. Inside, your modern brain whispers, hydration is timeless. The well smells faintly of moss and centuries. You lower the bucket, rope groaning like an old sermon. When it splashes, you feel a ridiculous surge of pride. First task completed, first step toward survival, also first sign of tendinitis. As you haul the bucket up, you notice your reflection in the water, tired eyes, hair that has lost its vote, and a thin layer of soot you didn't have before. The person staring back looks less shocked now, more curious, like an archaeologist who just realised the ruins are still inhabited. You take a sip. It's cold, metallic, alive in the way modern water never is. No chlorine, no filters, just earth. Your throat burns a little, but it's not unpleasant. You've tasted history now, and it tastes stubborn. You carry the bucket back toward the house. A few villagers glance your way, not with suspicion, but mild amusement, the same way you'd look at someone learning to ride a bike too big for them. A child points at your shoes, or the lack of them, and giggles. You realise you're the morning entertainment. It's humbling, in a strangely peaceful way. Back inside, you set the bucket down beside the fire pit. There's no chimney, just a hole in the roof where smoke decides whether to stay or leave. The room feels warmer now, or maybe you've adjusted. You sit again on the straw bed, listening to the sounds of life continuing outside. Voices, hammers, animals, wind. For the first time, the absence of technology doesn't feel empty. It feels full. You breathe in deeply. The smell is no longer just mud and smoke. It's something else now. Something alive. Something that insists you're part of it, whether you understand it or not. You close your eyes and think, if this is a dream, it's doing an excellent job of forgetting to end. And somewhere outside, a bell rings. Slow, deliberate, patient. Not to start the day, but to remind you that the day has already started without you. You smile, stand up, and decide you may as well catch up. The trail of this story now begins to stretch further toward the rhythm of work, of chores, of small mistakes that slowly become belonging. And if you listen closely, you can already hear it. The village breathing, waiting for you to fall in step. The next morning you wake to the sound of an argument between a rooster and time itself. The rooster wins. The light leaking through the wall is brighter now, revealing more of what you hoped was a bad dream but now looks suspiciously like daily life. A pot simmers somewhere outside, and the smell of boiled barley drifts in, mixing with smoke and the vague perfume of animal democracy. Everything seems to be taking turns being louder than you expected. You sit up, waiting for something familiar to anchor you. There is no hum of electricity, no vibration of a phone under the pillow. The silence has texture, a kind of slow wait. You whisper, "Okay, fine, I get it." The room doesn't answer. A drop of condensation slides down the inside of the wall and lands on your hand as if to say, "Welcome back." The instinct to troubleshoot reality kicks in. You inspect the space for hidden cameras, secret doors, or even the comforting click of a light switch. There is only the steady creak of old wood. You find a small shelf with a jug of water and a hunk of bread that has clearly survived a siege. You take a bite and instantly understand why medieval dentistry had trust issues. Each chew feels like a moral decision. You test the floor with your bare foot. It's as cold as logic. A few cautious steps later, you find yourself outside again. Morning is in full swing. People move with a kind of focus that doesn't leave room for questions. You stand there, blinking, a misplaced punctuation mark in their sentence. A woman passes carrying a basket of laundry balanced perfectly on her head. You try to say good morning, but what comes out sounds closer to an apology. She stares, puzzled, and then mutters something that could mean hello or idiot. You smile, bow slightly, and she moves on, satisfied enough. Communication achieved, technically. You take a few more steps into the open, trying to memorize every sight like evidence for later. Mud clings to everything. The houses, the clothes, the people, the air. It's not just a substance here, it's an element. You realize that this place doesn't hate dirt. It respects it. It builds with it, sleeps on it, grows food from it. The village is made of the same material as the people who live in it. Everything recycled, nothing wasted, including your confusion. You walk toward the sound of bells. They don't ring in melody, but in purpose. Each toll marks something. Work beginning, bread baking, maybe someone's patience ending. You can feel the rhythm of life measured not by minutes but by chores. It's strangely soothing once you stop resisting it. At the well, a cluster of villagers gathers with buckets and laughter. You recognize one or two faces from yesterday, which counts as progress. You join the line, trying to copy their movements. Someone hands you a smaller bucket, the training model. You nod gratefully. When you pull the rope, a man behind you grins, amused by your technique. First time, he says in words that sound like gravel and kindness. You mimic his accent badly. He laughs harder, slaps your shoulder and helps you lift the bucket together. Shared incompetence builds friendship faster than grammar. A dog wanders over, tail undecided. You reach to pet it, forgetting that not all dogs are optimists. It sniffs your hand, then sneezes in your face. A cross-cultural greeting, apparently. The owner calls something you don't catch, but it ends in a laugh. You've contributed to the morning entertainment schedule again. You look around, trying to find a familiar rhythm in all this. There is no market yet, no tavern open, no one checking watches. The day simply unrolls like dough, everyone kneading it into shape as they go. You wonder how anyone knows when to stop working. Maybe they just stop when the light runs out. It's an efficient system, though inconvenient for people who like calendars. A child tugs at your sleeve and points toward a group repairing a fence. You nod and follow, mostly because the child looks like the only authority figure willing to talk to you. The repair team consists of 2 men, a woman, and 1 determined cow trying to supervise. You watch how they tie the rope, wedge the wood, and test the strength by leaning their full weight against it. You offer to help, miming a question with your hands. The woman hands you a hammer that looks like it has opinions about your ability to use it. You swing. The nail bends immediately. Everyone nods approvingly. They expected that. A man takes the hammer gently from you, straightens the nail and hands it back. Again, he says. You try again, slower this time, listening to the rhythm of wood and iron. The sound settles into your chest. By the 3rd nail, it feels less like failure and more like participation. When the fence finally stands upright, someone passes you a cup of something brown and steaming. You hesitate, then sip. It's a kind of barley drink, half beer, half breakfast. Not pleasant, but not deadly either. You raise the cup in thanks. The woman laughs and says a word that might mean cheers or finally useful. You take it either way. The sun climbs higher and the air begins to warm. You notice your breath no longer smokes in front of you. The village hum deepens. Someone hammering, someone singing off key, a baby crying, a sheep disagreeing loudly with gravity. Every sound has its place, and somehow now so do you. You glance toward the hills at the edge of the fields. They look soft, worn down by centuries of wind and repetition. Beyond them, you imagine cities that don't exist yet, roads that haven't been paved, machines that won't be built for hundreds of years. But right here, everything functions without your help, without your century, without your approval. It's humbling and strangely beautiful. You sit by the fence, the repaired section glowing faintly in the afternoon light. You run your hand along the wood. It's rough, uneven, honest. The same could describe everyone here, including you. You realise that for the first time since waking, you're not looking for an escape route. You're simply watching the world do what it does best. Continue. The woman from before sits beside you, hands you a small piece of bread still warm from someone's hearth. You bite into it. It's dense, smoky, slightly burnt, but unmistakably alive. She nods at you with something like approval. Maybe that's how you earn belonging here. Not through words, but through work, through trying again until the nail goes straight. A breeze passes over the village, carrying the smell of yeast, sweat, and river water. It's not pleasant, but it's real. You lean back, close your eyes, and let the sounds of labour replace the music of your thoughts. Somewhere a rooster announces its opinion again. You almost feel grateful for it. The day drifts, the light softens, and for a moment you stop being a stranger. You're simply another person in the pattern, breathing with the rhythm of everyone else. The thought feels heavier than joy, but gentler than fear. And as the last bell rings in the distance, you realise something quietly profound. In your world, time was a number. Here, it's a sound. And you finally understand that both measure the same thing, the space between one heartbeat and the next. Our quiet exploration now turns toward the ways a body adapts, how the ache of work becomes the language of belonging, and how exhaustion sometimes sounds a lot like peace. Morning returns, louder this time. The sky is only a suggestion of light, but the village is already awake and arguing about it. A rooster somewhere begins its monologue again, joined by a barking dog, a cartwheel, and a baby who apparently has opinions about everything. You lift your head from the straw and realise that the medieval concept of silence was mostly theoretical. The air smells of wood smoke, bread, and a faint note of cow. You sit up slowly, brushing bits of hay from your hair, and try to remember what day it is. Then you remember that here, days have names only when attached to saints or disasters. This one seems to belong to both. You stretch, bones clicking in protest, and step carefully onto the cold floor. The straw mat sighs with relief behind you, as though you've been heavy with modern expectations. Outside, the dawn isn't soft, it's industrious. Smoke rises from every roof. People move through the fog like they have somewhere better to be. The soundscape is astonishing. No traffic, no engines, no phones, just rhythm. The clop of hooves, the scrape of a broom on dirt, the splash of water, the sharp clang of a blacksmith striking something that refuses to cooperate. It's not quiet, but it's honest noise, the kind that feels earned. You wander toward the main path where a few early risers are already engaged in their daily ritual of pretending to ignore one another. Someone feeds chickens, someone else sharpens a blade on a stone, humming tunelessly. You catch a few words of the local dialect, a mix of familiarity and confusion. It sounds almost like English, but spoken through fog and history. You realise you understand nothing, yet you can tell what everyone means. Gestures do most of the talking here. A group of children run past you, chasing a stick as if it's treasure. One of them shouts something that might be "watch out" or "move, strange adult." You step aside, nearly slipping on mud that seems to enjoy its job too much. A woman nearby laughs. You nod politely, pretending this was part of your morning exercise. Dignity, it seems, is an optional feature in this century. The church bell rings, slow, deliberate, patient. It doesn't mark the hour, it marks the fact that the world still exists. People respond without hesitation. They straighten, pause and cross themselves, as if the sound passes through them rather than over them. You do the same, mostly for camouflage. The gesture feels both foreign and oddly natural. Maybe belief is just rhythm repeated enough times that it becomes muscle memory. You follow the sound toward the village square, where life is beginning its daily rehearsal. Bakers carry trays of bread that look more like geological samples than food. The air shimmers with warmth near their ovens, and you drift closer instinctively. The baker, a broad man with arms like bread dough left to rise too long, offers you a small piece. It's dense, heavy, and faintly smoky. You bite, and your teeth file for retirement. Still, the taste is good. Flour, salt, heat, survival. The man grins, proud of your grimace. Pain, it seems, is part of the recipe. You wander further, cup of yesterday's water in hand, trying not to stare too obviously at everything. Two older women sit near a doorway, spinning wool, their hands moving faster than thought. One glances up and asks something that sounds like a question but feels like a test. You shrug, smile, and mime working a spindle. She snorts in approval. Communication achieved again through the universal language of trying. The rhythm of the morning begins to seep into you. Every sound becomes part of an orchestra that doesn't need a conductor. Even the wind participates, pushing through alleys, rattling shutters, carrying voices from one end of the village to the other. A door slams, a pot clangs, a dog barks again. You realise you no longer flinch at it. In your old world, you'd have reached for noise-cancelling headphones. Here, you just listen. A man passes by with a small handcart full of cabbages and a goat walking beside him, tied with a rope that looks more symbolic than effective. He waves and shouts something friendly. You wave back, careful not to overcommit to any unknown gesture that might accidentally mean marry me. The goat snorts, unimpressed. Somewhere behind you, the smell of manure sharpens the air. You find yourself thinking strangely that it smells alive. Modern cities smell of fuel and haste. This place smells of persistence. By mid-morning, the fog lifts, revealing the world in its true colours: brown, grey, green, and more brown. Children carry buckets. Women hang damp linen on hedges to dry. Stab. Man climbs onto a roof with a hammer and a prayer. Everyone knows what to do without being told. You realise that this, more than anything, is the secret of the village. It doesn't run on power or policy. It runs on memory. Every action echoes 1,000 mornings before it. You return to your little hut, passing a group of men loading firewood onto a cart. One calls out a word you don't know but delivers it with a smile. You nod and keep walking, pretending you understand. That's the other rule here. Comprehension is optional. Participation is mandatory. You pick up a broom and start sweeping your doorway, mostly to look busy. Dust rises, golden in the light. You realise it's the same dust that's been here since before you were born. The bell rings again, slower now, lower. Somewhere, lunch is being invented. The air thickens with new smells: stew, onion, yeast. You catch sight of smoke curling lazily through gaps in a roof, and for a second, it looks like the village is exhaling. You watch it rise, stretching upward into the pale sky, and think, maybe this place doesn't need to prove anything. Maybe it's enough just to continue. A small bird lands near your feet, pecks at the straw, then hops away. You smile. The sound of the wings replaces the sound of alarms. The day unfolds gently, each hour marked not by numbers but by chores completed, fires fed, and laughter shared between people who've stopped waiting for the world to change. You stand there for a long moment, broom in hand, breathing in smoke and silence. The air feels warmer now, as though it's decided you can stay. Somewhere deep inside, your pulse slows to match the rhythm of the place. For the first time, you don't feel like a visitor. You feel like someone who simply woke up early in a world that never went away. As the afternoon sun leans against the roofs and the shadows stretch long and slow, you realise that here time doesn't move forward. It settles. It gathers itself around the edges of things and waits for you to notice. You take one last look at the sky. Soft, uneven, beautifully imperfect, and think that maybe, for once, being awake feels like enough. From here, the story opens into the ache and humour of labour itself, how the body begins to speak in its own language, and how survival quietly becomes a kind of prayer. The smell reaches you before the morning does. Smoke, grain, and something sour that claims to be edible. A pot bubbles faintly over a hearth that smokes more than it burns. You sit cross-legged on the straw, staring at what might be breakfast, and realise that this is not a meal so much as a philosophical challenge. Steam curls upward, ghosting through a hole in the roof. The light slants in through it, turning dust into a slow snowfall. Somewhere outside, a dog barks as though to remind you that joy is still possible. A woman ladles something from the pot into a wooden bowl and pushes it toward you. You look. Inside, it's grey, lumpy, and smells faintly of ambition. You take a cautious bite. It tastes like bread that gave up halfway through becoming bread. The grains stick to your teeth, the aftertaste sticks to your soul. You nod politely, pretending to appreciate the flavour of survival. The woman smiles, clearly amused. Breakfast here is not about pleasure, it's about endurance. Every spoonful is a vote for staying alive. The bread comes next, heavy and defiant. It's a slab of barley mixed with determination and small stones. When you break it, it crumbles reluctantly, releasing a sigh of dust. You chew carefully, feeling grit grind between your molars. It's both food and dental exfoliation. A man nearby dunks his bread into his beer and gestures for you to do the same. You follow his example. The beer is thick, cloudy, and suspiciously chewy. But together, bread and beer form a kind of partnership. Two flawed ideas supporting each other through history. You drink again, trying to identify the taste. It's faintly sweet, like someone whispered the word honey near the barrel. It's also warm, flat, and unreasonably comforting. You remember reading once that even children drank ale in the Middle Ages. Now you understand why. It's not rebellion, it's hydration with ambition. Water may carry disease, but beer carries calories. You sip slowly, grateful that the microbes of history have already done their work. The meal is a quiet one. People eat without speaking much, not because they're unfriendly, but because chewing requires full concentration. The rhythm of the room is steady. Chew, sip, breathe, repeat. Each sound feels ancient. The scrape of wood on clay, the faint crackle of fire, the soft exhale of someone too tired to complain. You realise that this room, filled with smoke and silence, is what kept humanity alive for centuries. Just enough food, just enough warmth, just enough hope. You glance around at your companions. Their faces are lined, not by age but by effort. Eyes shaped by squinting at weather. Hands hardened by work that doesn't end when the day does. No one here looks bored. They look necessary. Every movement matters. A woman feeds the fire, adding a stick with the same precision you might reserve for saving a document. A man wipes the edge of the table with his sleeve as if it's a small act of worship. You begin to see beauty in their economy, nothing wasted, nothing idle. You finish your gruel and feel oddly victorious. It's a small victory, but a real one. Hunger replaced by heaviness, the kind that keeps you moving through the day. A child hands you a crust of bread already bitten, a gesture of inclusion. You take it, smile, and hand back the smoother side. She giggles, clearly aware that you've been outwitted. The laughter spreads around the table like warmth. For a brief, shining moment, you forget the 21st century entirely. When the bowls are empty, the routine of cleaning begins. There's no sink, no soap, only cold water and sand. The woman scrubs her bowl with handfuls of grit, then rinses it in the bucket. The same one you hauled yesterday. You copy her. The sand scratches away residue, and strangely it works. The surface feels clean enough, or at least less like regret. You realise this is how people survive here. Not through comfort, but through adequacy. Things don't need to sparkle, they just need to function. Outside, the morning continues its slow exhalation. You step out into the cool air, stomach heavy, spirit light. The sun has climbed higher, pale but persistent. The world smells of baking bread, wet soil and faint smoke. The villagers move through the narrow lanes with buckets, baskets and purpose. Everyone knows their role, even if their role is simply to exist. You take a deep breath, and for the first time, the air doesn't feel foreign, it feels earned. A man calls out something in the local dialect and points toward a distant field. You recognize one word: help. You nod, brushing crumbs from your hands, and follow him. The ground squelches beneath your feet, your breath fogs lightly in the air. The rhythm of walking here feels different, slower, heavier, deliberate. Every step has weight. You start to notice how the land itself seems to hum, a low vibration of insects, wind, and distant tools striking wood. The village doesn't wake up all at once, it unfurls. As you reach the edge of the fields, you see rows of people bent over the earth, their silhouettes outlined by morning light. The sound of tools is steady and comforting. The man hands you a hoe and demonstrates. You imitate his motion awkwardly, missing the rhythm entirely. He laughs, corrects you, and soon your movements align with his. The soil is cold, damp, and patient. It accepts your clumsy help without complaint. Each strike of metal against dirt releases a faint, earthy perfume, half decay, half life. You work until your back protests, then a little longer because everyone else does. Sweat mixes with smoke on your skin. The air vibrates with effort. It's hard, repetitive, and strangely hypnotic. The body learns what the mind resists, that simplicity can be sacred. When you finally straighten, the man claps you on the shoulder and says something that sounds approving. You smile, too tired to reply, too content to need to. As you walk back to the village, the bell rings again. It's not an alarm, it's a sigh. You realise that each toll marks not time, but gratitude. Gratitude that the day continues, that the fields yield, that the bread will harden and be eaten anyway. You reach the doorway of your hut and pause, looking out over the roofs shimmering in heat and smoke. The village hums. The air trembles softly with laughter, work and endurance. For the first time, you understand that here breakfast isn't a beginning, it's proof that the world has survived the night. You close your eyes, letting the warmth of the fire cling to your clothes, the ache in your back remind you of effort, and the taste of barley linger on your tongue. The day waits, not impatiently but knowingly. You have joined its rhythm one bite at a time. If we follow the thread a little further, it leads us into the language of labour, the way pain becomes instruction and effort turns slowly into belonging. The day begins without your permission. The light outside is thin and grey, the sort that doesn't brighten things so much as admit they exist. Someone calls from beyond the door, a few sharp sounds in the village tongue that might mean come on, or what's taking so long. You don't understand the words, but the tone is universal. You step outside, blinking, and find yourself already assigned to something. A wooden bucket is pressed into your hands before you even have a chance to protest. The handle creaks. The person who handed it to you points toward a line of others moving down the lane, all carrying their own buckets like a slow parade of obligation. You join them. The ground is slick from last night's rain. Mud clings to your feet with an almost personal attachment. A dog trots behind the group, supervising with loud enthusiasm. You follow the rhythm of boots squelching, water sloshing, and occasional laughter when someone slips. The air smells of damp straw, smoke, and mild regret. Somewhere a bell rings, soft but insistent. It doesn't sound like an order. It sounds like time itself clearing its throat. At the well, the work unfolds without conversation. Everyone knows their role. One person hauls the rope, another catches the full bucket, another carries it back toward the houses. You watch, hesitate, then step forward, choosing a task at random. Your first attempt at pulling the rope earns a few polite chuckles. You've underestimated how heavy water can be when it's tied to expectations. The man beside you mutters something kind and steady, showing you how to loop the rope around the post for leverage. You copy him, and the bucket rises slowly, dripping and triumphant. When it reaches the surface, he nods, the medieval version of a thumbs up. You carry your bucket back through the lanes. It sloshes with every step, testing your balance and your pride. A few drops spill onto your legs, instantly cold. By the time you reach the small hut where the woman from yesterday tends the hearth, your arms ache. You place the bucket down beside her, trying to look useful. She glances up, says something brisk and approving, and points to the ash pile near the door. You sigh quietly, pick up a shovel, and begin the next mystery task of the day. The ashes are still warm. You scoop them into another bucket, careful not to breathe too deeply. The dust rises anyway, filling your throat with the flavour of last night's fire. It settles on your hair, your clothes, your effort. You sneeze. The woman laughs. It's a small laugh, but it lands kindly. You start to understand that here, humour is how people survive repetition. When the world doesn't change, laughter becomes the movement itself. By mid-morning, the buckets multiply. Water, ashes, and something you decide not to identify by smell. The work feels endless, but strangely organised. Everyone moves according to some unwritten choreography. The sound of it fills the air. Scraping, splashing, footsteps, a low hum of voices. You find yourself falling into rhythm without meaning to. There's comfort in not deciding what to do next. You just follow, imitate, and stay upright. Your mind begins to quiet, drowned gently by repetition. Someone hands you a broom made from twigs tied together with rope. The handle is uneven, the bristles half missing, but it works. You sweep the floor of the hut, pushing dust and straw into a pile. The motion feels ancient. You remember offices, deadlines, glowing screens. They feel like inventions from another species. The broom doesn't need passwords or upgrades. It just needs patience. You sweep until the floor shows its packed earth again, smooth and brown, and the woman nods once more. Approval earned, however small, tastes better than breakfast. Outside, you hear shouting, not in anger but in urgency. You follow the noise to find a group struggling with a cart stuck in the mud. The wheels sink deeper with every attempt to pull. Without thinking, you join them. The rope burns your palms, mud splatters up your legs, and your back strains under the effort. But then, with one unified push, the cart lurches free. A cheer rises from the group, short, bright, unplanned. Someone claps you on the shoulder, leaving a handprint the colour of soil. You grin back, breathless. It's the first moment you felt not like a visitor, but like a participant in something that requires no explanation. You notice how the village moves as one organism. When one person tires, another steps in. When a bucket spills, someone else refills it. There are no schedules, no lists, only instinct and memory. The bells are its lungs, calling in and out. The people are its pulse. You realise this with the kind of clarity that doesn't need words. Modern life worships efficiency. This world worships endurance. Both have their miracles, but this one feels closer to breathing. You pause for a moment, leaning on your broom, and watch the clouds drift low over the rooftops. They look slow and heavy, carrying rain that might arrive tonight or next week. The air smells like metal and moss. Around you, the rhythm of chores continues. You're tempted to stop and admire it, but the moment you do, someone shouts, "What is definitely not praise?" A man waves at you, gesturing to keep moving. You smile sheepishly, realizing that in this world, observation counts as laziness. You pick up the pace, sweeping again, sweeping until your muscles memorize the motion. By midday, the sun burns away the mist. The fields outside shimmer, faintly, and the sound of work drifts farther out. Hammers, oxen, singing. You sit on a low step and drink from a cup of water that tastes faintly of iron. It's the best thing you've ever tasted. Not because of purity or minerals, but because it cost effort. You begin to see how labour here isn't punishment. It's proof that you're part of something that continues whether you notice or not. The ache in your arms and the grit in your hair are small confirmations you belong enough to be tired. A child runs by with a bundle of sticks, nearly tripping. You catch her by instinct, steadying the load. She grins and says a word that sounds suspiciously like thank you. You repeat it, clumsy but sincere. She nods, corrects your pronunciation with patience usually reserved for saints, and darts away again. You repeat the word quietly to yourself, savouring its roundness. It feels like your first piece of the language that might stay. When the bell rings again, its tone is deeper now, more forgiving. The villagers pause, stretching their backs, wiping sweat from their faces. The air hums with relief. Someone hands you a piece of fruit, shriveled but sweet. You bite into it, the juice sticking to your fingers. For a moment, the world tilts into grace. The field, the people, the sound of the bell. Everything feels suspended in a single breath. You close your eyes, listening, and realise you're not waiting for anything anymore. You're simply present. The man beside you mutters something soft. It sounds like the same tone he used this morning, the one that meant come on. Now it sounds more like enough for today. He smiles, points toward the hut and walks off. You follow, tired but steady. Your feet drag through the mud, your arms ache, your mind is quiet. Somewhere in the distance, the cart creaks again. The bell fades, and a crow calls once before flying away. The day folds into itself, satisfied. You set down your broom and sit near the hearth, watching the smoke spiral upward. The fire doesn't roar, it murmurs. It smells of wood, ash, and achievement. You feel the ache settling into your body like a teacher who has finally been understood. You're learning a new language, one built from weight, heat, and repetition. The language of the hands. And as dusk creeps in through the cracks of the wall, you realise that the body, unlike the mind, never doubts the world it lives in. It just learns it, slowly, honestly, one movement at a time. As we drift further into the story, the rhythm of this shared body will spread across the village, a quiet choreography of bells, footsteps, and breath that teaches you what time really means. By the second week, you stop counting days and start counting sounds. The bell in the church tower marks each turning of the light, but its rhythm is less a schedule and more a heartbeat. The first toll tells everyone that morning is serious now. The second asks politely if you're still alive. The third suggests that if you aren't working yet, you probably should be. You begin to move according to this pulse without realising it. The village doesn't run on time, it breathes through it. You walk through the lanes at dawn, carrying a small bundle of kindling, and see how everything starts in slow motion. Smoke first, then footsteps, then voices. Every task happens at the same moment as yesterday, as if the past left instructions. A woman sweeping her doorway hums a tune older than most buildings. A boy chases a goose who seems to have memorised his mistakes. Somewhere, someone is hammering, always hammering, as though the world would collapse without that steady percussion. You notice that nobody hurries, but nobody stops. Work stretches like a thread that can't afford to snap. You think about how, in your time, productivity is measured in speed, in results, in charts that never existed here. Here, the measure is continuity. The baker's arm repeats a motion his great-grandfather made. The blacksmith's rhythm is inherited muscle memory. You're watching generations move through one another, hands replacing hands, breath replacing breath. The field beyond the village glistens with dew and stubborn hope. Men and women scatter across it, spreading seed, repairing fences, hauling bundles. The lines they walk are straight in theory, curved in practice. You join them, still clumsy but less disastrous than before. The air smells of wet earth and human persistence. Each swing of the hoe produces a dull thud that feels like punctuation. One more mark in the story of survival. Mid-morning comes quietly. The sun has climbed high enough to warm your back and blind your sense of self-importance. Sweat rolls down your neck. You wipe it away with a sleeve already too dirty to help. A man next to you mutters a few words, points at your hands and laughs. You've been gripping the tool too tightly, fighting it. He takes it from you, turns the handle slightly and gives it back. Now it fits your body better. He grins as if he's solved a mystery. You nod in thanks, realizing you've just been introduced to the medieval version of ergonomics. The work continues, unhurried, honest. At first you think the silence between people means isolation. Then you notice small exchanges happening without speech. Glances, gestures, brief smiles that say, "I see you. Keep going." There is a calm intimacy in this shared effort. Everyone knows what pain feels like, so there's no need to mention it. You learn that conversation here happens mostly between bodies and tools. As you lift another load of earth, a group of children pass by carrying baskets of stones for the wall near the path. They're smaller than the baskets, but somehow manage. They giggle at your posture, which probably deserves it. One hands you a small, smooth rock, saying something that might mean lucky. You tuck it into your pocket just in case. The laughter follows you for a few moments before it fades into the wind. By noon, the heat thickens. The bell rings again, slower now, as if even the metal is tired. People gather near the shade of a shed, sharing bread, fruit, and a communal flask of ale. You sit with them, grateful for the pause. No one talks about work, no one complains. The quiet hum of chewing fills the air. Someone whistles a melody without melody, a sound made of habit rather than intention. You close your eyes and let it blend with the wind. After the meal, everyone stands almost in unison. There's no announcement, no signal. The body simply knows it's time. You follow suit, brushing crumbs from your clothes. The work resumes, but now the pace is softer, like a long exhale. You begin to understand that the village doesn't need leaders because it has rhythm. The bells may set the tone, but the people keep the time. You catch sight of an elderly woman walking slowly between the rows, carrying a small branch of herbs. Every few steps she stops, rubs the leaves between her fingers, and scatters them over the soil. You ask what she's doing with a look. She answers with a word you don't know, but the gesture is clear: blessing. Her hands move as if speaking to the earth itself. You wonder if it listens. Then again, maybe that's the point. Doing something not because it works, but because it feels right. In the distance, clouds gather over the hills, bruised and promising rain. No one hurries to finish before it comes. The pace remains steady, even as the light shifts to silver. The first drop lands on your forehead like a benediction. Then another. Within minutes, the field becomes a chorus of soft impacts, rain striking leaves and clothes and skin. People laugh, keep working, and let the storm wash away the dust. You join them, soaked, unbothered. The rain smells of iron and renewal. It tastes like the sky apologizing. When it finally passes, the air cools and shines. The mud beneath your feet clings less fiercely, as if content now. The bell rings again, its voice echoed by the dripping of water from rooftops. The villagers pack their tools, shoulders relaxed, eyes bright. You feel that same brightness under your exhaustion, a quiet pride not of achievement, but of participation. The rhythm of the place has caught you completely, like a song you didn't know you knew. As you walk back toward the huts, someone calls out a phrase that seems to mean good work. You turn, smile, and repeat it back, mangling the pronunciation but getting the meaning across. Laughter follows, friendly and warm. You realize that in this world, correctness matters less than sincerity. Words are only small bridges. The real understanding flows underneath them. At the edge of the village, smoke rises from chimneys again, lazy spirals against the pale sky. Chickens dart between puddles, pecking at reflections. You watch them for a while, feeling the pulse of the place still moving through you. Everything has a place here. People, animals, bells, rain, and now somehow so do you. You reach your door as the last light of day turns gold on the wet ground. The air smells of rain-soaked wood and bread just starting to bake. You stand there, listening. The bell tolls once more, distant, patient, certain. For a long time, you simply breathe in rhythm with it. The sound fills the gaps that used to hold anxiety. The world doesn't need your control. It only asks for your attention. You step inside, set down your bundle, and sit beside the fire. The coals glow with a soft pulse, echoing the bell, echoing your heartbeat. You smile without reason. The day is over, but the rhythm continues, stretching quietly into the night. From here, our quiet exploration turns toward what the body endures next. The slow ache of blisters, the sting of smoke, and the strange tenderness that pain sometimes teaches. By the third week, your body begins its small rebellion. The hands that once typed and scrolled now throb with unfamiliar purpose. Every muscle keeps a record of mistakes. Your palms are a collection of small half-moons, each blister glistening like a lesson you didn't sign up for. The skin has stopped asking for comfort. It simply thickens and continues. You wake before the bell, not from discipline, but from ache. The straw mat is no longer a stranger, though it still manages to stab you in new ways every night. You stretch in the dim light, hearing joints creak like a wooden door remembering how to open. The air smells of damp ashes and sheep wool. It's a scent that refuses to leave even when you step outside. The morning fog hangs low, the kind that makes every sound heavy and close. You walk toward the fields with your tools, feeling the rough wood of the handle rub against yesterday's soreness. Each step is a quiet argument between you and the ground. The mud insists you belong. Your knees disagree. The village stirs around you, smoke rising from chimneys, chickens starting their gossip. You nod to people you now recognise by the rhythm of their walk more than their faces. There's comfort in repetition. At the field, you join the others without a word. The man next to you grins and shows you a piece of cloth wrapped around his palm, his answer to the same problem. You do the same, tearing a strip from your worn shirt, tying it awkwardly around the worst blister. It helps a little, though mostly it just looks like faith in textile form. The work begins again. The hoe hits soil with a sound like breathing. In, out, again. You find the rhythm quickly, but your back reminds you that learning doesn't mean mastering. Every motion pulls something tight inside you. Still, you keep going. The bell rings somewhere far away, not commanding, just reminding. The sky's pale and vast, the kind of colour that doesn't promise anything. You watch the soil crumble, smell the iron scent of it, and think that if there's a holy language, it probably starts here. Smoke drifts from the other side of the field, where someone burns leftover straw. The wind turns, and suddenly you're in it. Your lungs protest, your eyes sting. The world blurs into soft shapes and glowing air. You cough once, twice, and then laugh. A dry sound swallowed by the haze. Everyone around you keeps working, unbothered. You follow their example, breathing shallow, blinking through the haze. It's oddly soothing once you stop resisting. The smoke wraps everything in a kind of tired holiness. Later, when the sun climbs higher, you sit under a tree to rest. The bark presses against your back, rough but kind. Your hands pulse with heat, tiny hearts of their own. You open and close your fingers slowly, testing what still works. The skin is cracked, darkened, but strong. You think about gloves, how ordinary they seemed before. Here, protection is earned, not bought. Pain is part of the uniform. A child runs by, chasing a stick with a rag tied to it. He stops to inspect your hands, fascinated. You show him a small blister forming near your thumb. He nods gravely, then points to a matching scar on his own palm. The exchange feels ceremonial. You're inducted into the brotherhood of poor choices and blunt tools. You both laugh, the same sound, half pain, half pride. When work resumes, you notice the way your body starts to predict the rhythm. Before the hoe strikes, your shoulders tighten. Before you bend, your spine negotiates the angle. Even exhaustion has structure now. You're not fighting the work anymore, you're joining its choreography. The body, given time, stops asking why and simply answers how much. By mid-afternoon, sweat darkens your shirt and salt crusts on your skin. The air hums with insects and heat. A woman near you wipes her forehead, then uses the same cloth to polish the handle of her tool, keeping the wood from splintering. There's something graceful in the gesture, maintenance disguised as survival. You mimic it, feeling the grain of the handle smooth under your thumb. It's warm, almost alive. You understand now why people give names to their tools. They spend more time with them than with prayers. When the bell rings again, it's slower, deeper. Everyone straightens at once, stretching their backs, exhaling in unison. The air smells faintly of sweat, soil and victory. Someone passes around a jug of ale. The liquid warm and flat but worth drinking. You take a sip. It tastes like barley, smoke, and mild forgiveness. The man beside you wipes his brow and says something that sounds like good ache. You nod. There's no better phrase for it. Back in the village, the work continues in smaller ways. A woman beats dust from a blanket. A boy sharpens a knife with a rhythm that could lull you to sleep. You help carry a stack of firewood to a shed, each log rough and fragrant. The wood leaves faint scratches on your arms, small gifts of proof. When the last piece is stacked, you stand back and watch as someone lights the hearth. The fire catches with a soft sigh, smoke curling upward, curling toward freedom. The warmth reaches you almost immediately, chasing away the chill left by sweat. You sit nearby, hands outstretched, watching the firelight trace the lines of your skin. Every crack and bruise glows briefly, each one a small biography. Pain doesn't feel like punishment anymore. It feels like translation, the body learning to speak the language of necessity. The woman who gave you breakfast a few days ago appears with a small bowl of ointment. She gestures for you to hold out your hands. The salve smells of herbs and ash. She rubs it gently over your blisters, her touch brisk but not unkind. You flinch once, then relax. The sting fades, replaced by a calm warmth. She mutters something that might be advice or simply habit. You thank her in your broken version of her language. She smiles, shakes her head and pats your arm. In this place, gratitude doesn't need grammar. Night comes slowly, like someone turning down a lamp one breath at a time. The sky deepens from gold to violet. Smoke rises from every roof, each trail carrying the scent of dinner and fatigue. You walk back to your hut, every step weighted but steady. Your body hums, not with pain now, but with proof. You've survived another day in a world that doesn't know what comfort means, and yet somehow offers more of it than you expected. Inside, the fire is low, the air thick with wood and sleep. You stretch your hands toward the warmth one last time. The skin glows faintly, polished by effort. You realize that exhaustion, in the right context, feels like belonging. The body has stopped arguing. It has learned its place, its rhythm, its reason. You lie down on the straw, the ache spreading evenly, like a heavy blanket. Before sleep takes you, you whisper a small, ridiculous prayer. Not for ease, not for escape, but for another day that feels this solid. Outside, the wind answers by rattling the shutters. It sounds almost like agreement. If we follow the rhythm forward, it will carry us into the quiet confusion of a language itself, where words fail, gestures stumble, and laughter becomes the only translation that works. You wake to the smell of something warm and forgiving. Bread, or what the medieval world considers bread. The air hums with heat and smoke. Your body hums with soreness that's almost proud now. The bell rings, and you rise, no longer questioning why. You simply do. The body moves first, the mind catches up later. You step outside into morning light that feels like it has been strained through centuries of patience. The baker's hut sits at the edge of the square, built from stone, wood, and optimism. You follow the smell until it surrounds you, the kind of scent that forgives every bad decision you've ever made. Inside, the baker is already working, arms dusted with flour, face glowing from the oven's heat. He doesn't look up when you enter, just points toward a sack of grain with the universal gesture that means, you lift that now, you obey. The sack is heavier than honesty, but you manage, dragging it closer to the table. He grunts approval, which is apparently the highest form of praise here. You watch him work, trying to follow the rhythm. He moves like someone who has long since stopped separating life from labour, kneading, shaping, slapping the dough against the board in a steady beat. The motion is hypnotic, almost prayerful. He gestures for you to join in. You dip your hands into the flour, feel the cool softness, then the resistance of the dough as you push is like taming something alive. Your first attempt sticks to your fingers, your shirt, and your self-esteem. The baker chuckles, a sound like gravel rolling in a bucket. He adds more flour, shakes his head, and shows you again. You copy his motion, fold, press, turn. The dough begins to obey, just slightly. The texture shifts under your palms, becoming smooth, pliant, responsive. You feel a strange satisfaction rising, the kind that has nothing to do with achievement and everything to do with participation. For a moment you forget what century you're from. There is only the dough, the heat, the rhythm. A woman enters carrying a basket of herbs. She greets the baker with a short phrase that sounds like a melody of vowels. You attempt to repeat it, trying to sound casual. Both of them freeze. The baker squints, the woman raises an eyebrow. You have, apparently, just proposed something wildly inappropriate. After a beat of silence, they both burst out laughing. You laugh too, mostly because it seems safer than leaving. The woman pats your shoulder, still chuckling, and hands you a sprig of something green. You take it, bull slightly, and hold it like an apology. The baker wipes his hands and mutters a few words that sound like advice. You repeat one of them, carefully. He nods. Progress. Then he points toward the oven. The heat rolls out in waves. You watch him slide the loaves inside with a long wooden paddle, then block the opening with a slab of stone. The smell intensifies. Yeast, ash, and hope. He pours a cup of water from a clay jug, hands it to you, and says something that might mean, "Drink before you faint." You drink. The water tastes faintly of smoke, but it's colder than forgiveness. While the bread bakes, the baker gestures toward the door. You follow him outside. The square is busy now. People trade goods and words with equal noise. You hear fragments of sentences, laughter, the rustle of cloth and coins. You recognize a few sounds, a few gestures. Someone waves, calling out the word you learned yesterday for thank you. You respond with what you think is the same phrase, but judging by their reaction, you've just asked if their goat can dance. They laugh until they cry. You blush, but laughter is contagious here. Soon, you're laughing too. Language here is a moving target. Meaning is built from tone, from context, from how you hold your hands when you speak. You discover that a nod can mean yes, maybe, or please stop talking. You learn to read expressions, the tilt of a head, the length of a pause. Words are decoration. Survival depends on rhythm. You stop trying to sound correct and start trying to sound kind. It works better. The baker returns carrying the first loaf from the oven. The crust is dark and cracked, the smell indescribable. He breaks it open, steam rising like incense. He tears a piece and hands it to you. It burns your fingers. You bite carefully. The taste is rough but real, earthy, faintly bitter, alive. You chew slowly, savouring the warmth spreading through your chest. The baker watches your reaction, then nods once. You've passed another unspoken test. As you stand there eating, a few children gather around, pointing at you and whispering. One of them mimics your earlier language disaster with alarming accuracy. You play along, pretending to be deeply offended, then chase them a few steps until they scatter, laughing. The adults nearby smile. Somehow your humiliation has become community entertainment. It's strange and comforting at once. Later, you carry a basket of the new loaves to the well, where villagers wait to buy or trade. You hand one to an old man who gives you a small wooden charm in return. It's carved into the shape of a bird, simple but careful. You slip it into your pocket, feeling its edges warm against your leg. The old man says something you half understand. May it fly for you when you can't. You nod, unsure if that's a blessing or a warning. The afternoon drifts by in a soft haze of labour and laughter. You find that the fewer words you use, the more people seem to understand you. You point, gesture, smile, shrug. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it's too much. You knock over a basket of apples while bowing to someone who didn't need a bow. You apologise so profusely that they give you 2 apples out of pity. By evening, your language consists mostly of grins and hand movements that mean yes, thank you, or please stop throwing things. When the bell rings for dusk, you return to the baker's hut. The last of the bread cools on the table, golden and proud. The baker sits beside the oven, tired but content. He gestures for you to sit. You do. He breaks another loaf, offers half, and says your name, or at least something close to it. Then he points to himself and says his own. You repeat it. He laughs, corrects you, and makes you say it again. Finally, you get close enough. He raises his cup, and you raise yours. The shared silence feels fluent. The warmth from the oven fills the room, soft and steady. The fire crackles, the smell of bread lingers in your hair and clothes. You realise that for the first time since you arrived, you aren't thinking about translation. You're just here, communicating in the oldest language there is. Shared work, shared food, shared mistakes. As you step outside into the cool night, the stars shimmer above the rooftops. The village hums quietly, a lullaby of human sound. You look up, whisper something to the sky in your broken mix of words, and imagine it laughing kindly back. Miscommunication, you think, might be the most human miracle of all. If we follow the thread a little further, the world will start to smell of sweat and smoke again. The scent of work becoming the scent of home, the first proof that you have stopped being a visitor. The next morning greets you not with sound, but with smell. Before the bell, before the rooster, before the chatter of people outside, it's the air itself that wakes you. It smells like everything at once. Damp hay, bread cooling, wood smoke curling from the roof beams, and the faint, persistent note of sweat that no amount of soap, or the medieval attempt at soap, will ever erase. You lie still, listening to the scent. It tells a full story before anyone speaks. When you step outside, the air has layers. Each lane of the village carries its own flavour. The tannic sting of wet leather from the tanner's shed, the sharp, grassy breath of the stable, the soft, yeasty perfume from the baker's hut. You can walk blindfolded and still know where you are. Smell has become a map, guiding you through the day more precisely than any clock ever could. The first task of the morning is hauling manure to the field, a form of gratitude the land insists upon. The pile steams in the cool air, a fragrant reminder that civilization has always been part compost. You gag once, then laugh at yourself because everyone else is laughing too. They're immune, or maybe enlightened. The scent to them means fertility, food, survival. You pinch your nose for a moment, then let go. The air rushes in again, fierce and full. It's better not to fight it. You load the cart, the smell clinging to your clothes like loyalty. The man beside you hums a tune while shoveling, utterly content. You try humming too, but your tune sounds like surrender. He laughs, claps you on the shoulder, and keeps going. You realise that for all the talk of hard work back home, this is the first time you've truly understood what effort smells like. It's not perfume, it's persistence in gaseous form. By the time the cart is full, your nose has stopped objecting. The scent has changed from unbearable to ordinary. You catch yourself thinking that maybe someday you'll miss it. The thought horrifies you for a second, and then, oddly, doesn't. The body, it turns out, adapts faster than pride. At the fields, the air sharpens. The manure meets the soil in a union older than language. You spread it with a wooden fork, watching the steam rise, curling upward like offerings. The earth drinks it greedily. The wind shifts, carrying the smell toward the village, and you see children wrinkling their noses dramatically. You wave at them with the fork. They laugh and run away. A perfect cycle of life. Someone suffers, someone else finds it funny. Later, you help rake the ash from yesterday's fires to scatter across the ground. The scent of smoke is gentler, almost comforting after the morning's ordeal. You breathe it in deeply and feel something settle in your chest. The combination of ash, soil, and sweat smells almost human. Not the clean, distant human of antiseptic rooms and filtered air, but the ancient one, raw, fallible, alive. By midday, the sun burns through the haze, releasing new odours from every corner of the village. The well smells metallic. The barrels of ale sweet and sour at once. A woman scrubs cloth near the river, and even the soap, made from lye, fat, and what might be regret, adds its note to the orchestra. The entire village is a living scent, a mix of smoke, grain, animals, and skin. You realise that in the world you came from, everything was deodorised. Here, nothing hides. During a short break, you sit near the blacksmith's forge. The heat radiates like a second sun. Sparks jump, landing on the dirt and dying with tiny sighs. The air smells of metal, sweat, and something sharp enough to taste. The blacksmith nods to you, wipes his forehead, and says a single word you don't know, but the tone is unmistakable. Hot. You grin, nod back, and both of you laugh without needing translation. The world is simpler when adjectives can be inhaled. When the bell calls everyone back to the square, the air thickens again with domestic scents. Bread baking, meat boiling, the faint sweetness of cider being poured into wooden cups. You help carry firewood to one of the homes and notice how every family's hearth smells slightly different. One uses birch, one oak, one peat. You can tell them apart now, the way someone else might recognise faces. The scent of birch is bright and restless. Oak burns deep and slow. Peat smells like memory itself, old and wet and forgiving. A child runs past you, clutching a bunch of herbs, rosemary and something sharper, maybe mint. He waves them under your nose proudly. You inhale, dizzy from the sudden freshness. The child giggles and presses a small bunch into your hand. You tuck it behind your ear like a fool, but everyone who passes smiles at the sight. Apparently, even stupidity can smell nice if you own it. As the sun leans lower, the air cools and thickens again. Evening smells are slower. Less urgency, more endurance. Smoke, wool, cooking fat, bread. It's the scent of survival, of things that didn't burn, of people who didn't leave. You watch the village settling into its nightly rhythm and realise that smell has become the background music of your life here. It's no longer assault, it's company. At dinner, you share a bowl of stew that tastes mostly of onion and effort. The woman across the table hands you a piece of bread and gestures toward the hearth. You notice that the walls themselves smell of years of smoke, the scent trapped inside the wood, part of its memory. You wonder how long it takes for a house to start smelling like its people. Maybe it already does. After the meal, the baker stops by with a new loaf, proud of its colour. He breaks it open and lets you inhale. It smells like victory disguised as yeast. You compliment him in your mismatched words, and he laughs, handing you a smaller loaf to keep. You tuck it under your arm, feeling the warmth seep through your shirt. Even bread here carries the scent of someone's labour. When night finally comes, you lie down in the straw and close your eyes. The day clings to you, the smoke, the sweat, the faint sweetness of grain. You could wash, but you don't. The smell isn't unpleasant anymore. It's proof that you were part of something, that you moved, lifted, breathed, existed among others. You realise that the clean world you came from was lonely. This one, in all its dirt and scent and noise, feels more alive than any place you've known. The wind slips through the cracks in the wall, bringing with it the faintest smell of rain. It mixes with the smoke from the dying fire and the warmth of your own skin. You breathe deeply, not to test the air, but to belong to it. Every scent is a memory forming quietly. As you drift towards sleep, you think that maybe this is what home really is. Not a place, but a smell that forgives you for staying. From here, the story exhales into the ritual of cleansing and ridicule. The day the village decides to wash, and the cold river teaches humility through laughter. It happens on a morning colder than reason. Someone bangs on your door before dawn, shouting a word that sounds like a cross between an order and a joke. You open the door to find 3 villagers waiting, holding buckets, towels, and an unmistakable look of expectation. One of them gestures toward the river. The message is clear. Today, you bathe. You're both flattered and terrified. The walk to the river feels like a pilgrimage you didn't volunteer for. The sun hides behind a wall of mist. Frost curls along the grass like quiet laughter. The villagers march ahead with purpose, carrying soap made from lye, animal fat, and, judging by the smell, poor decisions. You trail behind, trying to remember when bathing became a community event. In your world, cleanliness was private, polite, and often scented like confidence. Here, it's apparently a spectator sport. When you reach the riverbank, steam rises faintly where the water meets light. It looks inviting until you touch it. The temperature is closer to punishment than refreshment. You gasp, the villagers cheer. They begin undressing, entirely unbothered by the cold or the audience gathering on the hill. Children, elders, dogs, all ready for the entertainment. You realise too late that you are the opening act. Someone tosses you a bar of soap that feels rough enough to remove both dirt and memories. You stare at it, weighing your options, freeze or offend everyone. Before you can decide, a boy shouts something encouraging or possibly insulting and pushes you gently toward the water. The first step steals your breath, the second your dignity. The crowd applauds your bravery, or perhaps your expression. You wade in up to your knees, then your waist, then surrender entirely. The cold burns so deeply it feels like heat. Your lungs forget how to function. You surface, gasping, while laughter ripples across the riverbank. The women nearby scrub clothes against stones, watching you with professional detachment. A child waves a handful of moss like a flag of victory and yells a word that sounds like courage. You nod weakly, accepting the title. The soap foams reluctantly. It smells of smoke, tallow, and faint defiance. You rub it against your arms, trying to remember that this counts as hygiene. The villagers shout playful advice, none of which you understand, though their gestures are clear enough. You mimic their movements, scrubbing, rinsing, splashing. Soon you're laughing too, because laughter is warmer than the river. It rises out of you without permission, the kind that feels earned. When you finally stumble back onto the shore, the world spins with brightness. The cold has sharpened every colour. The sky glows pale blue, the water silver, the mud at your feet almost beautiful. Someone throws a coarse towel around your shoulders, another presses a mug of something steaming into your hands. You sip it, ignoring the taste. which lands somewhere between tea and regret. Warmth crawls slowly back into your bones. The villagers nod, satisfied. You've passed another unspoken test, survival with enthusiasm. Afterward, the group lounges on the grass to dry in the weak sun. The air smells of wet wool and river water. The conversation drifts between jokes, gossip, and the occasional burst of song. You don't understand most of it, but you recognize the tone, mockery wrapped in affection. They tease each other about shivering, about hair frozen into shapes, about the colour of noses gone red. You catch your own name among the laughter and pretend to scowl. They roar with approval. One woman sits beside you, wringing water from her hair. She points at your towel, then at the sky, muttering a string of words that end in something like good. You repeat the last word carefully. She smiles, corrects you, makes you say it again. It becomes a small game, her speaking, you repeating, both laughing. By the end, you can almost pronounce it. It means clean, or possibly alive. Here they seem to mean the same thing. As clothes dry and chatter fades, you notice the stillness returning. The river flows slow and forgiving now. Reflected light dances across the faces around you. It occurs to you that this ritual isn't really about washing. It's about proof that life continues through discomfort, that laughter conquers shame, that community smells better after effort. You look around and realize that no one here is embarrassed. They're too busy being human. Later, back in the village, everyone glows faintly with health and pride. The scent of soap and wet wool follows them through the streets like a hymn. Children splash in puddles. Adults hang damp clothes near the hearths. You sit by a fire, still wrapped in your towel, skin tingling with memory. The woman from earlier passes by and drops something beside you, a small bundle of dried moss tied with string. "For courage," she says in her language, smiling. You nod, placing it on the mantel as though it were treasure. As evening falls, the village smells new, less smoke, more earth. Even the animals seem calmer. The day's absurdity lingers as warmth in your chest. You think about all the ways modern life tried to hide the body, from sweat, from smell, from the honest mess of living. Here the body is unavoidable. It's public, necessary, and oddly sacred. You find yourself grateful for it, for the ache, the cold, the laughter that refuses to leave. When the bell rings for night prayers, the villagers drift toward the church. You follow at a distance, feet still damp, hair still smelling faintly of lye. Inside, candles flicker, smoke curling upward in patterns that remind you of river mist. You kneel near the back, not out of faith, but habit. The priest's words flow in a language you still barely recognize, but the cadence feels familiar now, like the rhythm of waves against stone. You close your eyes, letting the sound wash over you. Outside, the river whispers under the moon. You can almost hear it laughing still. The moss bundle glows softly in the firelight of your hut, a small green echo of the day. You lie down, skin tight from cold, heart loose from laughter. For the first time, you understand what purity really means. It isn't about absence of dirt, it's about presence of joy. As sleep arrives, you smile in the dark, remembering the crowd's applause and the river's shock. You think, the world is easier to love when it mocks you first. The path now carries us toward the heavy sweetness of faith and smoke, the place where belief becomes repetition and even the air seems to pray. Morning begins slower now, like the village itself is reluctant to move. The sky hangs low and grey, stitched together by the smoke from 100 small fires. The air smells of wet wood and melted candle wax. You can already hear the bell's first warning, not an invitation, but a reminder. It's Sunday, or at least the village's version of one. Today belongs to God, or to whatever combination of guilt and habit has replaced him. You step outside, freshly clothed in something that might once have been a shirt, now patched enough to qualify as art. The villagers move in quiet procession toward the small church at the edge of The square. Its walls lean slightly inward, as if built by a man with great faith but no sense of geometry. The roof glimmers faintly where frost has caught on the thatch. You fall in step behind the others, following the slow rhythm of feet in mud. Inside, the air is thick before anyone even breathes. Smoke from candles and incense gathers beneath the rafters, curling and drifting like ghosts unsure of the exits. The smell is dense, half holy, half headache. You find a spot near the back beside a man who smells of iron and bread. He nods to you once, then kneels. You follow, trying not to creak. The priest stands before the altar, his robes a tired shade of white. His voice rolls out in a language you still only recognize by its rhythm, long syllables that fall like the turning of a mill wheel. You understand nothing, yet somehow you know when to respond. Everyone around you murmurs together, a low ocean of sound that rises and falls with practiced faith. You join in, mumbling nonsense that feels correct. The man beside you glances over, amused, but not unkind. As the prayers continue, your attention drifts. The light through the small window lands in dusty columns across the floor. Each speck of floating ash seems to pause before deciding to settle. You watch a child a few rows ahead attempting to swat one from the air. His mother catches his hand mid-swing without even looking. The boy freezes, sighs, and resumes pretending to pray. The priest lifts a silver cup, its surface dull with years of use. The gesture is slow, deliberate, and filled with silence. Everyone kneels lower, including you, though your knees complain loudly. The smell of incense thickens. It clings to your hair, your clothes, your breath. The line between holiness and smoke becomes impossible to find. At some point, you stop thinking about translation and start thinking about rhythm. The way each bow and chant and crossing of arms fits perfectly into the pattern of sound and smell. You realize that the ceremony works because of its repetition. It doesn't explain, it simply continues, like breathing, like work. Faith, here, isn't a decision, it's a habit of motion. Your thoughts wander again, back to your world of microphones and schedules. You remember people saying they didn't have time for church. You wonder what they were saving it for. Here, time itself has been shaped to fit around devotion, like dough around a stone. The bell calls, the body responds, and somewhere in between, belief happens almost by accident. A verse begins, sung by the women first, then joined by everyone else. The tune is low, slow, slightly off-key, but it fills the space like warm air. You recognize the feeling more than the meaning. It's comfort disguised as obligation. You hum along quietly, finding a note that doesn't offend anyone nearby. The man beside you nods, satisfied. For a moment, you're not pretending. You're participating. Halfway through the sermon, the priest raises his voice. You catch a single word repeated several times, or it sounds like light. He gestures toward the candles, the windows, the smoke rising through the roof beams. You follow his gaze, and for a heartbeat, you understand. The message isn't in the words, it's in the air itself. Everything burns, everything changes, everything rises. You nod slightly, as if the sermon were written for you. Maybe it was. The final prayer comes like a sigh. The crowd stands stretching quietly, joints clicking in agreement. Outside, the cold rushes in as the door opens. People spill into the sunlight, squinting, blinking, returning to their lives. The smell of incense follows, clinging to cloaks and hair. It trails through the village like invisible thread. For hours afterward, the whole place smells faintly of sanctity and smoke. You linger inside for a moment longer. The priest moves slowly around the altar, gathering the leftover candles. You step forward and nod in thanks, though you aren't sure what for. He studies you for a moment, then smiles, as if recognizing something in your face. He places a small candle in your hand, half used, still warm at the base. "For home," he says softly, in a word you understand without needing translation. Outside, the village resumes its rhythm. Children chase one another through puddles. A woman sells small pastries that taste faintly of honey and salt. Men argue about weather as though they could vote on it. Life returns, louder and lighter. You walk toward your hut, candle still in hand, feeling oddly fragile and clean. The smell of incense clings to you, sweet and relentless. Back inside, you set the candle on the table and light it again. The flame wavers, small but persistent. Smoke curls upward, tracing invisible prayers onto the air. You sit beside it, watching it burn down slowly. The flicker reflects in the bucket of water nearby, turning the surface into a trembling mirror. You stare into it until your eyes ache, unsure whether you're looking at light or smoke, at reflection or memory. Eventually you blow the candle out. The smoke rises in a thin spiral, then dissolves. The smell lingers, soft and familiar now. Not just the smell of worship, but of warmth, of presence, of the day itself. You realise that maybe faith was never about understanding. Maybe it was just about staying still long enough for the air to change around you. Outside, the bell rings once more, distant and comforting. The village exhales. Fires light again. The rhythm of work returns quieter now, as if softened by prayer. You close your eyes, breathing in the last trace of smoke. It feels like belonging, condensed into air. If we follow the faint trail upward, it leads toward the stars, and toward the danger of knowing too much, where a single wrong word can turn knowledge into prophecy. Night has a way of erasing boundaries here. The fields, the houses, the sky, all dissolve into one dark shape stitched together by the glow of distant embers. After the sermon's smoke and the day's labour, the village finally exhales. Fires burn low in their hearths, and above them the stars appear one by one, unhurried and absolute. You step outside your hut and breathe in the cold. The air tastes clean but alive, as if the whole world has just washed its face. You sit on the small bench by your doorway, staring upward. The stars seem closer here, or maybe the darkness simply lets them through. In your own time, you looked at them through glass or screens framed by streetlights and numbers. Here, there are no measurements, no coordinates, no telescope waiting to translate awe into data. Only the silence between breaths and the endlessness above you. The villagers pass by in small groups, heading home. They nod, still wrapped in the day's rhythm. One of them, an older man with a lantern, stops when he sees you staring. He follows your gaze, then murmurs a word you recognize. Stars. You repeat it carefully, almost reverently. He smiles and says something longer, his tone patient, like a teacher guiding a distracted student. You catch none of the meaning, only the shape of kindness in his voice. You decide to return the favour. Pointing upward, you say softly in your own language, "They're suns, burning worlds far away." You gesture with your hands, trying to show distance, fire, movement. The man watches, face unreadable. For a moment, you wonder if you've said something offensive. Then he takes a step back, crosses himself, and calls out to a woman nearby. She approaches, eyes wide, listening as he repeats your words in quick bursts. She gasps, then bows slightly. Others gather, curious. You hold up your hands, shaking your head. "Not magic," you say, as gently as possible. But the words mean nothing here. The crowd murmurs among themselves. The children peek from behind skirts, equal parts fear and fascination. Someone whispers a phrase that sounds like seer. You feel your stomach drop. This is how prophets are invented, by accident. The woman gestures for you to speak again. You hesitate, then point to the stars once more. "Light," you say slowly, using the local word you learned in the church. "Far." You stretch your arms wide. "Many?" The crowd nods, murmuring approval. You're not sure if they understand or simply like the enthusiasm. A boy asks a question in quick syllables. You can guess what he means. Yes, you answer, hoping you're right. He grins and the tension breaks. Laughter ripples through the group, soft and relieved. The moment of danger turns into a kind of wonder. An older woman steps forward, holding a small bowl filled with bread and herbs. She places it on the ground before you, then bows her head. You freeze, unsure whether to refuse or thank her. The man with the lantern nods approvingly. You kneel awkwardly and murmur the closest thing to gratitude you can manage. The villagers smile, content. It seems you've been promoted from stranger to something more complicated. As the crowd drifts away, the woman with the bowl stays behind. She sits beside you and stares up at the sky. Her face glows faintly in the starlight. After a moment she speaks, a long, quiet string of words that could be a story, a prayer, or both. You listen without understanding, but something in her tone carries meaning. She points to one star brighter than the others, taps her chest and says a single word. You repeat it. She nods, then she points to you, to the same star, and says the word again. The meaning lands softly, belonging. You both sit in silence for a while. The night hums gently, crickets, wind, distant laughter fading from the tavern. The sky above stretches forever, a cold ocean scattered with light. You wonder how many people across centuries have sat like this, thinking the same thought, that the stars are alive and somehow watching back. The woman stands, brushing dust from her dress, and hands you a piece of bread from the bowl. You take it carefully. It's dry, but you eat it anyway, out of respect. She smiles, touches your shoulder, and walks away, leaving the lantern near your feet. The light flickers in the breeze, soft and human against the infinite dark. You stay outside long after everyone else has gone in. The stars shimmer and shift, their cold light trembling in the air. You try to remember the science, the distances, the nuclear reactions, the endless mathematics that once made the universe manageable. But the numbers feel irrelevant here. They have no weight in the dirt, no warmth in the wind. You realise that the truth of the stars is too large for understanding, and maybe it was never meant to be understood. Somewhere in the distance a dog barks, followed by the low reply of another. The village settles. You lie back on the grass, the ground cold but solid beneath you. The stars seem to drift, though you know it's you turning, not them. The thought is strangely comforting. Movement disguised as stillness. Time disguised as sleep. Your eyes grow heavy, but the sky keeps you awake a little longer. You find constellations that don't exist yet. Name them after mistakes you've made. The fool's bucket, the blistered hand, the soap of regret. It feels like prayer through humour. The wind cools your face, the earth warms your back, and the stars remind you that being small is the only thing that ever made sense. You must drift for a while, because when you open your eyes again, the horizon is already greying. The stars fade slowly, reluctant to leave. The first rooster calls out, declaring ownership of the new day. You smile, remembering the villagers' faces from last night, the awe, the laughter, the fragile bridge between faith and confusion. You hope they understood what you meant, that the world is larger than fear, and that wonder, like fire, needs only a little air to survive. You rise, brushing dew from your clothes, and glance once more at the pale sky. The brightest star still lingers faintly near the edge of morning. You whisper to it a quiet apology for all the names and meanings humans have forced upon it. It answers, as stars always do, with silence that feels like forgiveness. Back inside, the fire in your hearth has died to embers. The candle from the church stands beside it, wax pooled and solid. You light it again, using one spark from the coals. The flame flutters, small but sure, joining the thin light of dawn. You realise with a smile that maybe you've been a seer all along, not of futures, but of ordinary things finally seen clearly. As the bell rings in the distance, the first smell of bread floats through the air, and the day begins its familiar song. You whisper one last word to the candle, half blessing, half confession, still burning. From here, the trail of wonder leads downward again, to the market, the tavern, and the unsteady joy of being human in public. Morning arrives wearing its best disguise, bright, noisy, and smelling like adventure, mixed with something that might once have been edible. The village market stretches along the main path, a restless tide of people, animals, and ambition. Smoke from cooking fires blurs the air, turning sunlight into soft gold. You step into the crowd, guided less by sight than by scent. It's a carnival of smells: salt, sweat, roasted grain, unwashed wool, and the unmistakable tang of opportunity. The first thing you notice is the sound. Voices everywhere, layered and overlapping, rising like birds startled into flight. Sellers shout promises, buyers shout disbelief. Somewhere, a goat makes an editorial comment. The air is alive with a negotiation. You realise that this is the medieval version of social media. Loud, chaotic, mostly honest by accident. A man waves you toward a stall draped in strips of meat of questionable origin. The cuts hang from wooden hooks, swaying gently in the breeze like flags of surrender. The butcher beams with pride, gesturing to each piece as though introducing members of his family. You nod politely, pretending to understand the sales pitch. He picks up a slab, sniffs it approvingly, and offers it to you. You sniff too, out of politeness. It smells like a decision you will regret. You decline with a smile, pressing your hands together in the international sign for maybe later, when I'm braver. Next comes the cheese stall. The air around it hums with life, literally. You approach carefully, inspecting wheels of cheese that look old enough to vote. The woman behind the stall is sharp-eyed and amused. She slices a piece, hands it to you with a challenge in her gaze. You take a bite. It's dense, salty, and slightly alive. Your face betrays you. She laughs, delighted, as if she's been waiting all morning for that expression. You try another small bite out of stubbornness, and it grows on you, the way smoke grows on clothes. You nod in approval, she bows theatrically, and somewhere a truce is declared. Further down, the stalls multiply: grains, vegetables, pottery, baskets, candles shaped like optimism. You learn quickly that this market isn't just about buying. It's about being seen, about gossip disguised as commerce. Each exchange includes at least 3 opinions, 2 apologies, and 1 prayer that the weather will behave. At one corner, a man sells spices from small wooden boxes. The air around him glitters with scent: pepper, cinnamon, dried mint. You lean in and inhale deeply. The smell is dizzying, foreign, almost holy. The man grins, noticing your reaction. He pinches a small amount of powder between his fingers and gestures toward your tongue. You hesitate, then comply. The taste explodes, sharp, sweet, impossible to name. You cough once, eyes watering, and he laughs so hard he nearly spills his spices. Around you, people join in, clapping your back, offering bread to calm the heat. You chew, nodding through tears. Congratulations, you've just invented lunch theatre. By midday, the market reaches its peak. Heat, noise, and scent blur together into one living creature with too many arms. Children run between stalls carrying small coins or ambitions of theft. A chicken escapes from somewhere and instantly becomes everyone's business. You watch as 5 people chase it in 5 different directions, shouting strategies, none of which work. Eventually, the chicken wins. The crowd applauds. Even commerce pauses to honour persistence. You find yourself near a table where 2 men are debating the quality of ale. Their mugs slosh dangerously as they gesture. You catch fragments of words, numbers, boasts, insults softened by laughter. One of them waves you over, as if inviting an expert opinion. You take a cautious sip. The drink is thick, cloudy, and carries a personality stronger than your own. You nod solemnly. Both men cheer, deciding your agreement settles the argument. You realise that, in this world, authority belongs to whoever looks most convinced. Across the square, a woman sells small cakes dusted with something white and mysterious. She calls out to you, her tone warm and insistent. You approach, driven by equal parts hunger and curiosity. The cakes are soft, fragrant, and glisten with honey. You buy one, and it melts on your tongue like apology. She smiles, clearly pleased, then slips an extra cake into your hand. You say thank you in your best attempt at her language. She laughs and corrects you, making you repeat it. By the third try, you've earned another cake. Linguistic progress never tasted so sweet. The afternoon light begins to tilt, turning the market golden. You sit near the well with your modest collection of purchases, a loaf of bread, a wedge of defiant cheese, a handful of herbs, and a chicken feather that somehow followed you home. Around you, the crowd thins. Merchants pack their goods, customers count their change, and the air cools from chaos to contentment. The smell of roasted meat fades, replaced by wood smoke and the soft sweetness of trampled grass. A young boy approaches, offering a small clay cup of cider. You trade him half your cheese, a transaction that feels both fair and poetic. The drink is tart, warm, and tastes faintly of apples and sunlight. You lean back, watching the last few stalls close. Someone plays a flute nearby, a wandering tune that slips through the air like memory. For the first time all day, the market feels quiet, not silent, but settled. You think about how trust here isn't built with words or contracts. It's built with shared laughter over questionable cheese, with bread passed between strangers, with risk swallowed and forgiven. The market, for all its chaos, is an act of faith, the belief that tomorrow someone will bring something worth trading for, and that you'll be there to meet them. As the bell rings to mark evening, the last of the sellers wave to one another, their arms streaked with flower and sunlight. You rise, gather your things, and head back through the lanes. The smells cling to you. Smoke, spice, sweat, and sweetness. Each one a small reminder that life here, though uncertain, has texture. Back at your hut, you tear off a piece of bread, dip it into the honey from the cakes, and take a bite. It's sticky, messy, perfect. The taste is equal parts risk and reward. You chew slowly, smiling to yourself. You may never fully learn their language, but you've learned their logic. If it makes you laugh and doesn't kill you, it was a fair trade. You step outside once more, the evening cool against your skin. The stars return, faint and familiar. Somewhere in the distance, the chicken crows triumphantly from its hiding place. You raise your piece of bread toward the sound in salute. The world, it seems, approves of your participation. As we move forward, the laughter grows thicker, the air warmer. The path now leads to the tavern, where stories drink each other into being, and strangers become friends by accident. Evening descends in no hurry. The sky bruises into shades of blue and copper as smoke from cooking fires rises to meet it. The bell rings once, low and kind, signalling that the day has earned its rest. The villagers drift toward the tavern, a squat wooden building that leans like it's tired from listening to too many stories. The air outside smells of ale, roasted onions, and something fried in animal fat that might be courage disguised as food. You follow the sound before you see the place. Laughter spills through the cracks of its walls like warm light. Someone plays a fiddle with more enthusiasm than talent. Each note staggers slightly, but no one seems to mind. Inside, the room glows golden. Candles stand at uneven heights, dripping wax onto tables already carved with generations of initials. The floor is sticky, the air heavy with smoke and the perfume of spilled beer. It feels like stepping into the lungs of joy itself. A woman behind the counter raises her chin in greeting. Her sleeves are rolled, her hair tied with a strip of cloth, her eyes sharp enough to cut through any excuse. She pours something brown and opaque into a clay mug and slides it toward you. You hand her a coin, but she waves it off and gestures toward the crowd as if saying, "First one's mercy, next one's fate." You lift the mug carefully. The drink inside smells of bread and survival. The first sip is a small betrayal. It tastes faintly of wood smoke and wet grain, heavy enough to chew. You cough once, earning laughter from the nearest table. A man leans over, slaps your back hard enough to remind you of your mortality, and shouts something approving. He raises his own mug in salute. You raise yours in reply, and just like that, you are part of the conversation without needing a single word. The room swells with noise. People sing in fragments, start verses they can't finish, and cheer each other for trying. A group of farmers argue loudly about which saint blesses barley best. A young woman counters that saints prefer wine anyway, which earns her applause and an immediate offer of marriage. She declines by pouring her drink over the man's boots to more applause. You realise that this place runs not on rules, but on rhythm. You take another sip. It's no better, but it's warmer now. The heat spreads through your chest like understanding. Someone pulls you toward a table already packed with people. You squeeze in, knees knocking against strangers, elbows brushing against history. Plates of food appear from nowhere. Bread, stew, something that might once have been a pig. The air hums with comfort disguised as chaos. The man beside you introduces himself with a long story you only half comprehend. His hands tell most of it. Gestures for fish, storms, and the size of something apparently enormous. You nod appropriately, learning that agreement is the safest form of fluency. He claps you on the back, pleased with your diplomacy, and passes you a piece of bread. You tear it, dip it into the stew, and chew slowly. It's simple, salty, perfect. The kind of food that forgives you for not being fancy. At the next table, someone begins a story about a talking pig who exposed a thief. Another insists it was actually a goat. Within minutes, everyone is arguing not about the truth, but about whose version is funnier. The laughter builds until the sound becomes physical, shaking the wooden beams. You laugh too, not because you understand the words, but because laughter has its own grammar. It needs no translation. The ale continues to flow. It never tastes better, but it keeps convincing you that it does. Your hands relax, your shoulders drop. The room glows brighter, or perhaps you've simply learned to see the light hiding inside the noise. You start catching fragments of phrases, half-rhymes, blessings disguised as insults. One man toasts to blisters and bread, another to smoke that never burns out. You add your own to the rooster who never rests. They cheer as if it's poetry. For a moment you believe it is. The fiddler strikes a new tune, faster, sloppier, perfect for dancing. Two couples push the tables aside and spin clumsily on the uneven floor. Someone grabs your arm, pulls you up, and you join before you can refuse. The dance is more collision than choreography. Feet stomp, skirts flare, laughter drowns the music. You lose count of turns and steps, but you never lose the rhythm. The body, drunk or sober, remembers joy even when the mind forgets. When the song ends, applause fills the room. You collapse back into your seat, dizzy and glowing. The woman behind the counter grins at you, her face softened by candlelight. She refills your mug without asking. You raise it toward her in thanks. She nods, approving, then points at you and says a word you recognize. Friend. The sound lands softly, more real than the firelight. You repeat it, uncertain, and she laughs. Not mocking, but pleased. The room seems to pause for half a heartbeat, the noise folding into warmth. For the first time since you arrived in this world, you have a name that doesn't mean stranger. The night deepens. Outside, the air cools, but inside, the tavern stays bright. The laughter grows slower, thicker, turning into murmured stories and soft singing. You rest your elbows on the table, tracing the scratches left by countless hands before yours. Each mark feels like a memory of survival, of someone who laughed through their hunger long enough to leave proof. Someone begins humming a tune without words. Others join in, voices weaving into something that's not quite a song, not quite silence. You add your own low hum to the mix. The sound vibrates in your chest, simple and human. The moment stretches. No one tries to end it. Eventually the candles burn down to small trembling lights. People drift home in twos and threes, leaning on each other, still talking, still laughing. You stay a little longer, letting the last sounds fade. The room smells of beer, smoke, and contentment. When you finally step outside, the air feels crisp and infinite. The stars blink down like old friends pretending to be new again. You walk back to your hut slowly, the ground uneven beneath your feet but forgiving. Behind you, the tavern door closes, leaving only the echo of laughter in the dark. You realise that friendship, like ale, doesn't need clarity to be real. It just needs warmth. As you crawl into your straw bed, your head humming gently, you smile into the dark. The room smells faintly of bread and smoke and laughter. Somewhere a rooster dreams of being wrong. Our quiet journey now turns toward the wild generosity of the village's heart, the festivals that arrive without warning and end only when everyone forgets why they began. Morning begins with confusion, which is usually the first sign of a festival. The bell rings at an unfamiliar hour, faster, louder, as if it too has been drinking. People hurry past your hut carrying ribbons, baskets, and instruments that look suspiciously homemade. You ask a passing woman what's happening. She grins, shrugs, and says something that sounds like, "Because." It appears that reason has taken the day off. You follow the sound of drums, real drums, not just buckets pretending to be, and find the square transformed. The market stalls are gone, replaced by garlands of flowers and banners painted in colours that have never existed in nature. Children chase one another with handfuls of petals. Someone has crowned a goat who looks unimpressed but regal. The baker waves at you from behind a table piled with loaves shaped like suns, moons, and whatever came after creativity ran out. You ask again what the occasion is. This time a man holding a jug explains in slow, patient tones that it's the feast of Saint someone. He forgets the name halfway through and drinks to remember. You realise this isn't about saints or history. It's about permission, the village's right to stop working without guilt. You approve immediately, music erupts. A fiddler, a flutist, and a man with a drum the size of optimism begin to play. The rhythm is uneven, the melody questionable, but the joy unmistakable. People dance in circles, in pairs, sometimes alone, sometimes accidentally with livestock. You're pulled in before you can resist, spinning with strangers who feel like friends you've simply met late. The air smells of cider, sweat, and flowers crushed underfoot. The crowned goat wanders through the dancers, eating its garland and ignoring applause. A group of children follow it reverently, carrying sticks like ceremonial staffs. Someone declares the goat mayor for the day. Cheers follow. Democracy never looked so festive. You bow to the goat as it passes. It sneezes in response, likely the medieval version of acknowledgement. Food appears as if by magic. Roasted meats, fresh bread, apples and pies that defy classification. You take a plate from a smiling woman who insists on overfilling it. The first bite tastes like the triumph of farmers over weather. The second tastes like forgiveness for every mistake you've made this week. The cider flows freely, sweet and sharp, the kind of drink that convinces you gravity is optional. Everywhere you turn, people are laughing. Two old men attempt a dance that turns into slow, synchronized falling. A woman sings a song about turnips that sounds suspiciously romantic. Children perform a play involving a dragon made from a blanket, a stick, and pure conviction. The dragon wins naturally. You clap until your hands ache. As the day stretches, the music slows, replaced by the murmur of contentment. People sit in clusters, sharing food, gossip, and the universal language of fatigue. You find a spot beneath a tree, half shade, half sunlight. The ground is soft with trampled grass. Nearby, a young man carves something into a piece of wood, a horse, or maybe a goat. Art here doesn't explain itself. He notices you watching and hands you the carving. You shake your head, but he insists. It's rough, small, but perfect. You thank him, stumbling through the words. He smiles, points to your chest, then to the carving, as if saying, "Keep it. It belongs to your day." The afternoon drifts toward evening in slow, golden ripples. Music returns, softer now. Couples sway near the fire pits. Someone starts telling stories about the saints, though the versions vary wildly. One claims St. Martin turned water into beer. Another insists it was the village brewer's uncle. No one argues, because both stories end the same way, with celebration. You find yourself sitting beside the baker and the woman who once corrected your pronunciation. They hand you a mug of something bubbling gently. You ask what it is. The baker says, "Cider." The woman shakes her head and says a word that sounds like miracle. You take a sip. They're both right. As twilight falls, the firelight replaces the sun. Sparks rise into the air, trying to join the stars. You lean back, watching smoke twist upward like slow laughter. The sky deepens, the colour of honey turning to ink. People start singing again. No instruments now, just voices layered together. The tune is simple, built on repetition, the kind that pulls your heart into rhythm whether you like it or not. You hum along quietly, then louder. The person beside you joins in. Soon the song becomes the night itself. Someone hands you a small candle. You light it from the fire and hold it carefully. Around you, dozens of flames flicker in the dark. The faces illuminated by the light are tired but peaceful. For a moment no one talks. The music fades into the sound of crackling wood. Even the goat mare has found a place to rest. You watch the candle burn lower, its wax pooling like melted time. You think about how strange it is to find joy that doesn't need a reason. No calendar, no goal, no aftermath. Just a day that exists because people remembered they were alive. In your world, happiness often had to justify itself. With achievement, with purpose, with proof. Here, it's simpler. Laugh first, explain later, if ever. The candle burns your fingers slightly. You place it on the ground beside your wooden carving, both glowing softly in the dark. The fire crackles. Someone nearby tells a joke that everyone hears differently, and that's somehow the point. The stars lean closer, curious. You realize that you've stopped waiting for meaning to arrive. It's already here, sitting in your lap, smelling faintly of cider and goat. When the last song fades, the villagers disperse slowly, reluctant to break the spell. You walk home through the cool air, the distant fires, flickering behind you. The night smells of ash and laughter, of grass and smoke. You carry the carving in one hand and the faint echo of music in your chest. Back in your hut, you place the carving on the table beside the candle stub from the church. The two lights, the sacred and the ridiculous, look perfectly at ease together. You sit, smiling, and whisper goodnight to the goat mare, wherever it's sleeping. Outside, the wind stirs gently, like applause. If we follow the laughter a little further, it leads us into quieter work. The way joy lingers as repair, and how even a hammer can learn to speak kindly. The morning after the festival arrives like a polite apology. The air is cool again, the sky pale and forgiving. You wake to the sound of hammers, not bells. A steady rhythm echoes through the village, the unmistakable percussion of renewal. Someone is mending a fence, someone else a roof. The square that last night glowed with laughter now hums with quiet purpose. Celebration has turned back into survival, but it wears the same face, just calmer. You step outside, stretching sore limbs that remember too much dancing and too little reason. The earth smells faintly of cider and smoke, the lingering perfume of joy. A rooster crows late, as if embarrassed to have overslept. You smile. The village is already awake. Your first task presents itself in the form of a man waving a hammer at you. You follow him down the lane to where a fence has collapsed, the wooden posts leaning like drunks after confession. Without words, you pick up the other hammer. The ritual begins. The sound of metal against wood is steady, satisfying. Thud, pause, breath, repeat. The rhythm feels ancient, a slow heartbeat echoing through the fields. The man beside you hums tunelessly while working. The wind moves through the grass, carrying fragments of yesterday's laughter. The air feels lighter, as if the festival didn't end but simply transformed into work. You hold a plank in place while he hammers it down. The wood smells clean and sharp, each strike releasing a puff of sawdust that glitters briefly in the sun. You wipe sweat from your forehead and notice other villagers nearby doing the same. Some patching walls, others repairing carts or mending baskets. It's a choreography of small salvations. A woman passes by carrying a bucket of nails and nods at your crooked handiwork. You grin, shrugging an apology. She stops, takes the hammer, and fixes your mistake in 3 efficient blows. You nod gratefully. She pats your shoulder and says something that sounds like good effort. You suspect it translates more closely to bless your heart, but the tone is kind. The man working beside you pauses to rest, leaning on the handle of his hammer like it's a staff. He points toward a patch of sky where clouds drift lazily, then toward the fence. His meaning is clear enough. The weather will test this before we do. You nod, impressed by how easily meaning moves without words. He smiles, and you both return to work, partners in quiet comprehension. By midday, the repairs stretch through the village. A chorus of tapping, sawing, and murmured conversation fills the air. Someone brings bread and cheese around, payment in calories and kindness. The cheese tastes less aggressive than last week's, maybe the mold-learned manners. You eat with your hands, drink from a wooden cup passed around like communion, and feel the satisfaction that only follows useful exhaustion. When the sun climbs higher, you move to the next task, patching a section of thatch on a roof. You climb the ladder carefully, trying not to look down. The view from above is different. You can see the entire village, its crooked lines, its steady smoke, its pulse. From here, you realise how everything fits together, how every repair is part of a larger pattern. Even broken things belong to the design. The thatch scratches your hands, dry and stubborn. You tie bundles together with a rough twine, each knot a small prayer that the rain will stay polite. Below, children chase each other through the grass, shouting the same nonsense words adults use in arguments. A woman hums near the well, her voice soft but certain. You pause for a moment, letting the sound guide your breathing. The world, for once, seems perfectly arranged. Messy, loud, imperfect, and entirely at peace with itself. You climb down as clouds gather over the hills. The first drops fall just as you finish, tapping gently against the fresh thatch. The rain begins in earnest, drumming on the roofs, turning the lanes to rivers. Everyone scatters indoors. You run for shelter under the eaves of the tavern, where a few others have gathered, laughing at their timing. The woman from the fence offers you a piece of cloth to wipe your face. You thank her, adding the word for gratitude you've practiced all week. She laughs approvingly and says another you don't know yet. You repeat it anyway. She nods, pleased. Language, it seems, prefers persistence over accuracy. The rain lasts only a short while, but it leaves everything shining. The fences gleam dark and new, roofs drip with pride, and puddles reflect the whole sky. You walk through the village as the clouds thin, the air smelling of earth and renewal. Smoke rises again from chimneys carrying the faint sweetness of wet wood. The hammering resumes, slower now, like the afterbeat of a song finishing itself. You find yourself near the church, where a few villagers are fixing the small wooden door. You offer to help. One man hands you a plane to smooth the surface. The tool glides across the wood, leaving a trail of pale curls that fall like shavings of time. The smell of cedar fills the air. The man nods approvingly and says something that might mean steady. The word sounds right. You repeat it quietly, liking the way it fits in your mouth. When the work finally ends, the sun returns. The fields steam, gently under its warmth. You sit on a low wall with the others, drinking water that tastes faintly of tin and patience. The conversation drifts lazily, half laughter, half silence. Someone tells a joke about the goat mayor refusing to resign. Another replies that at least the goat never raises taxes. You all laugh, the sound easy and tired. You look down at your hands, calloused, stained, but strong. The blisters have faded into scars, small signatures of effort. You realise that somewhere between the festival and this fence you stopped feeling like a visitor. Work, it turns out, is a kind of citizenship. Every strike of the hammer has written your name a little deeper into the soil. As evening returns, the bell rings once, a soft reminder that the day is done. The village exhales together. People drift home slowly, tools slung over shoulders, laughter trailing behind them like ribbon. The smell of dinner curls through the air, smoke, herbs, bread. You stand in the lane, watching the sky darken to violet. The fences stand straight, the roofs hold firm, and the world feels briefly complete. Back inside your hut, you light your small candle and set it beside the wooden carving from the festival. The flame flickers, steady but quiet, reflecting in the smooth curve of the carving. You sit for a while, listening to the faint echo of hammers still ringing in your ears. The rhythm stays with you, the patient thud of effort, the soft pause after each strike. You realise it sounds exactly like a heartbeat. You lie down, pulling the blanket over your shoulders. The air still smells of rain and cedar, of work finished and work waiting. The world outside creaks once, then settles. You close your eyes, your mind filled with the steady rhythm of tools and laughter, and think, maybe repair is the truest kind of celebration. From here the story will shift again, from wooden hammers to quieter reflections, where belonging becomes memory, and memory begins to dream. The night returns in two halves, like a quiet conversation that takes a breath between sentences. You wake in the middle of it, unsure if the dream has ended or simply changed shape. The fire in your hearth still glows faintly, a dull orange heart beating under its own ashes. The room smells of wood smoke, wool, and the faint sweetness of yesterday's bread. The air is cool enough to make you pull the blanket closer, but not enough to hurry you back to sleep. Outside, the village murmurs, not the loud chatter of day, but something softer, snippets of voices that drift through cracks in the night. You hear laughter, a door creaking, the low murmur of two people talking in what might be prayer or gossip disguised as piety. The night has its own rhythm here, one that accepts interruption. You realise this is what people once called the first sleep and the second. In between they woke, talked, thought, sometimes even visited neighbours. Sleep was not an escape, but a pause in the middle of living. You lie still for a while listening. Somewhere a cow shifts in its stall. The wind slides down the chimney with a sigh. Embers crackle faintly, whispering tiny confessions of light. It's not silence, but harmony, each sound knowing its place. You close your eyes again, not to rest, but to listen better. A faint knock at your door startles you. You sit up, heart slow but curious. When you open it, a man stands there holding a lantern and a small jug. You recognise him, the shepherd who often waved to you at the edge of the fields. His eyes are kind and permanently half asleep. He says something in a low voice, gestures toward the jug, then toward the sky. You nod, grabbing your cloak and follow him outside. The night is crisp, the stars thick and close. The shepherd walks slowly toward the pasture, his lantern swinging like a small captured moon. You follow, boots crunching over the frost. The sheep huddle together in the distance, their shapes soft and breathing. The air smells faintly of wool, wet earth, and the long patience of animals. He pours something into 2 small cups, warm beer, sweetened faintly with honey. You take one, the steam curling against your hands. The taste is strange but comforting, like liquid bread. The shepherd grins at your cautious expression, says something that sounds like a toast, and drinks. You copy him, though less confidently. The warmth spreads quickly through your chest. The stars above shimmer as if approving. You sit beside him on a log, both of you watching the quiet shapes of the sheep. He hums a tune, low, meandering without urgency. You don't recognize it, but you find yourself swaying slightly, matching his rhythm. Between verses, he points to the stars, naming them in his language. You don't understand the words, but you catch the meaning. These aren't distant suns to him. They're signs, seasons, stories. You try to tell him how your people once mapped them, how they are suns burning far away. He laughs softly, shaking his head. To him, they are shepherds too, watching from above. You decide not to argue. His version feels kinder. The warmth of the drink settles into your limbs. The night seems to breathe with you now, slow and sure. The sheep shift, bells around their necks chiming faintly like polite applause. The shepherd tells a story. You catch fragments about a wolf, a saint, and a stubborn lamb that refused to follow. His hands move like the wind, drawing pictures in the air. When he finishes, you clap quietly. He bows as if he's on a stage no one else can see. After a while, he yawns, stands, and gestures back toward the village. You walk together in comfortable silence. At the edge of the lane, he stops, hands you the rest of the jug and nods. You thank him in your uneven words. He smiles, pats your arm, and disappears into the dark, the lantern swinging behind him like a slow goodbye. You return to your hut, the embers still, faintly alive. You pour the last of the warm beer into a small cup and sit beside the fire. The liquid tastes sweeter now, or maybe you've learned to expect less from perfection. You stare at the glowing coals and realize that sleep, like friendship, doesn't need to be uninterrupted. It just needs to return. You lie back down, pulling the blanket close. Outside, a rooster crows once, confused by the moon. Somewhere a dog barks, claiming the night as its own. The world shifts gently, settling into its second half of rest. Your eyes close slowly. The warmth of the drink hums through your body like a lullaby written in barley and starlight. As you drift, you think about how your own world demands unbroken sleep, uninterrupted progress, constant function. Here, even rest has intermission. Time itself bends around the body's need to pause. You find the idea strangely comforting, the permission to wake, to wander, to return without guilt. Your last thought before surrendering is that maybe the human heart was never meant to run continuously. It just needs intervals of stillness to remember how to beat kindly. The fire sighs once more, the embers dim, and the second sleep begins, not as an ending, but as continuation. From here, as the night melts into dawn, the story will widen again. You will begin to feel the village not as a place, but as a single breathing thing, and yourself as one small steady pulse inside it. Dawn arrives not with drama, but with a sigh. The light creeps over the rooftops as if reluctant to wake the world too quickly. You open your eyes to the faint glow seeping through the cracks in the wall. The air smells of wet earth and smoke, a mixture that has come to mean morning. Outside, you can already hear the soft murmur of life beginning again. Water being poured, footsteps on packed soil, the whisper of kindling taking flame. When you step out, the air is cool enough to make you inhale sharply. The mist clings low to the ground, swirling around your feet like memory that hasn't decided whether to leave. A rooster calls, this time on schedule, joined by another from farther away, then another, until it becomes a choir of certainty. It feels less like noise and more like announcement. The village is breathing again. You start walking down the lane. The rhythm of morning builds gradually. A woman sweeps her doorstep in long, even strokes, her broom moving like the hand of a clock that never lies. The blacksmith's hammer begins its patient song in the distance, each strike ringing out like a pulse. A boy drives the cows toward the pasture, their bells clinking in uneven but cheerful time. The sound of the mill joins in, a low, turning groan, the wheel catching the river's voice and shaping it into motion. Together it becomes something larger than sound. It becomes pulse, breath, and continuity. You stop for a moment and realize that what you're hearing is not many things, but one thing, an organism made of lives, tools, and rhythm. The village is a body, and every person is an organ within it. The forge is its heart, the church its lungs, the well its throat, the fields its outstretched hands. Smoke rises from the chimneys like veins carrying warmth through the body. The bells are its heartbeat, steady and certain. You smile, thinking that maybe this is the only kind of immortality that ever worked. At the well, a group of women fill their buckets, chatting as water splashes and echoes. The sound is laughter softened by repetition. They nod to you as you pass, one of them offering a half smile that feels like acknowledgement. You have become part of the system. You're no longer the stranger who asks strange questions about stars and soap. You're just another moving piece in the great humming mechanism of survival. You walk toward the fields. The smell of damp straw and turned soil greets you like an old friend. The mist has begun to rise, catching the light and turning gold around its edges. Farmers bend over their work, silent except for the rhythm of tools and breath. You join them, instinct guiding you more than memory. The handle of the hoe fits perfectly now, moulded by the weeks of your grip. The soil resists just enough to feel alive. The air vibrates faintly with the chorus of insects beginning their day. Everything feels deliberate, though no one gives orders. At one point, you straighten to rest your back and watch the scene unfold. A man carries a cart of hay, humming a tune that weaves through the air like thread. A dog trots beside him, occasionally pausing to bark at nothing in particular. The smell of baking bread drifts across the fields, warm and forgiving. Somewhere in the distance, the church bell rings once, softly, a reminder rather than a command. And in that moment, you understand what rhythm really means. It's not repetition, it's agreement. Every motion, every sound, every person is saying yes to being alive, just one more day. You glance down at your hands, noticing the thin lines of dirt under your nails, the faint scars healed pale. They are no longer out of place. The body has accepted them. You've stopped thinking of your work as imitation. It's now simply contribution. You lift the hoe again, the movement natural, the sound familiar. It joins the larger music of the morning without asking permission. By midday, the sun has grown bold. The mist has vanished, leaving the world clean and sharply drawn. The village moves slower now, settling into its afternoon pulse. People share bread under a tree, passing the same loaf from hand to hand. The blacksmith steps out of his forge, stretching, his face shining with effort. He wipes his brow, nods to you, and says something short and approving. You nod back, realizing you don't need to understand the words to hear their warmth. As the day drifts onward, small things keep aligning. The baker's window opens just as a breeze passes, sending a soft cloud of flour into the air like pollen. The cows return to the lane right as the children finish their chores. Even the river seems to retain its murmur to the bell. You think, not without amusement, that this must be what harmony smells like: bread, sweat, and water in the right proportions. Later, you find yourself standing near the church. The door is open, and the faint echo of singing reaches you. It's not grand or even entirely in tune, but it fits perfectly in the day. You lean against the wall and close your eyes. The sound, the warmth, the rhythm, they all merge until you can't tell which part belongs to you. The line between self and place begins to blur, not in confusion, but in belonging. You realize that here, individuality isn't erased, it's recycled. Everyone gives a little of themselves to keep the whole breathing. When evening comes, smoke rises once again from the chimneys, each column curling gently like the body's exhale. The bell rings low and patient. People drift home, some still talking, others silent but content. The air cools, carrying the scent of ash and stew. You sit on a fence post, watching the light fade from gold to grey. The village slows its heartbeat. You think about how long it took to feel this simple, how much effort went into learning the quiet choreography of belonging. You understand now that life here isn't about finding purpose, it's about becoming part of one that already exists. The mill turns, the bell rings, the forge glows, and you, somewhere in the middle of it, breathe in rhythm. When the last light disappears, the village exhales for the night. You stand stretching, feeling the weight of the day settle softly into your body. The air hums faintly, a vibration that continues even after the sound has stopped. It's the afterglow of community, the body of the village still moving even in rest. You walk home slowly, your steps matching the rhythm of distant hammering, as the blacksmith finishes his final work. The door creaks open, the fire greets you with a gentle sigh. You sit, listening. For a moment you swear you can still hear the village breathing through the walls, through your pulse, through the faint rise and fall of the wind. It feels less like place and more like memory already taking shape. If we follow that breath inward, it will lead to dreams, where what once felt foreign now returns as memory, and the self finally dissolves into quiet. That night, sleep finds you before you have time to chase it. It arrives the way mist does, softly without asking. The day's rhythm still hums faintly through your body as you drift off, your thoughts no longer sharp but shaped like echoes. The last thing you see before surrendering is the dull glow of the fire breathing its slow red breath into the room. When dreams come, they no longer arrive in fragments. They move like memory deciding to rest. You find yourself walking along the same lane you walked by day, but everything is brighter and slower, as if the moon has decided to rehearse daylight. The air smells not of smoke, but of rain-soaked earth. The smell of mud, alive and generous. Your hands feel rough even in the dream. When you look down, they are the same hands that held the hoe, the hammer, the bread. You have carried your work into your sleep. Voices rise softly from unseen places. Laughter, the rhythmic splash of someone washing cloth in the river. The smell of yeast and wet hay drifts through the dream like a familiar melody. You realize with quiet amusement that even your subconscious has gone medieval. No office lights, no hum of engines, no notifications. Just the simple noises of things that still exist without electricity. Fire, breath, water, wind. You wander toward the river, drawn by the sound of moving water. The moon trembles on its surface, whole and broken at once. You kneel to touch it. The mud between your fingers is cool and forgiving. For a moment you remember something from your other life. A phone glowing on a bedside table, its light blue and restless. It appears beside you now in the dream, as if summoned by the thought. The screen flickers weakly, showing no messages, no voice, no signal. The battery icon glows red, the universal symbol for worry. You hold it for a moment, feeling the old instinct to swipe, to check, to respond. Nothing happens. The river keeps moving, unbothered. You take a breath, then another, the air filling your lungs with the smell of water and decay. Slowly you lower the phone into the river. The surface ripples once, twice, then swallows it whole. The light vanishes. The reflection returns to calm. The moon continues shining as though nothing has been lost. When you wake inside the dream, you feel lighter. There is no vibration in your pocket, no urgency waiting under your skin. The world feels like it has exhaled. You stand and follow the path back toward the village. Everything glows faintly. Houses, fences, even puddles. Like each thing is remembering itself in slow motion. You pass the baker's hut. From within comes the scent of dough rising. The air feels thick with warmth and quiet pride. You reach your hut, open the door, and find it already awake. The fire burns low, steady and domestic. Your bed looks softer than it ever did when you first arrived. You lie down and listen. Outside, the river hums. A dog barks once, then thinks better of it. The silence is no longer strange. It's earned. You close your eyes again inside the dream, sinking deeper into something that feels like rest, but older. Time blurs. You're not sure if the hours pass or if the night simply deepens around you. You dream again, this time of hands kneading bread. They move automatically, strong but gentle, folding air into substance. You realise they are your hands, but older, wiser, maybe borrowed from someone else who already learned what you are still learning, that creation is just a form of breathing. The smell of baking fills the air and suddenly you're standing in the market again. Only now it's empty. The stalls are there, the tables, the baskets, but no people. The wind moves through them, humming faintly. You pick up a piece of bread left on a counter. It's still warm. You take a bite. It tastes of salt, smoke and memory. You chew slowly, and when you swallow, it feels like remembering something you hadn't realised you'd forgotten. You laugh quietly to yourself because the dream doesn't need to make sense anymore. The world has stopped demanding logic. Even the mud under your feet seems to sigh in contentment, as if saying, "You finally stopped rushing." You walk to the well in the centre of the square. The bucket waits. You lower it, hear the rope creak, feel the pull of gravity, the splash of contact far below. When you lift it again, the water inside reflects your face. Not quite as it was, not quite as it is, but calm. The dream shifts again. You're sitting on the fence from earlier, watching smoke rise from the chimneys. The air smells of rain about to happen. A voice speaks beside you. It's the shepherd, though he looks younger now, or maybe older. He doesn't say much, just hums the same melody you once heard by the pasture. You hum along. The harmony feels effortless. Then he says one word, short, soft, final. You don't know it, but you understand. It means something like enough. You wake gently, still in the same position, still wrapped in the warmth of your blanket. The fire has turned to ash, the air cool but kind. Dawn hasn't arrived yet, but you can sense it waiting. For the first time in your life, you wake without a single thought demanding your attention. There is no list, no clock, no screen. Only the faint trace of a dream where you let something sink and the peace that followed it. You sit up, breathing slowly, feeling the rhythm of your chest. The quiet isn't empty, it's full. You realise that memory itself has changed texture. It's no longer digital, it's tactile. It smells like smoke and feels like bread. It lives in the body now, not the cloud. You smile, thinking that maybe this is what it means to truly remember, to keep something alive by becoming part of its rhythm. Outside, the first birds begin to stir. Their calls are small, cautious, like thoughts testing the edge of waking. You lean back, eyes half closed, and let the sound carry you. You think of the phone at the bottom of the river, its silent light fading among pebbles and fish. A strange comfort settles over you. The anxiety that once hummed behind every thought has finally gone to sleep. The fire whispers softly, and for a moment you're not sure if you're awake or still dreaming. It doesn't matter. You've crossed the border between them so many times that they've stopped pretending to be separate. As you drift again, you think, perhaps peace isn't a reward for doing enough. Perhaps it's just what happens when you stop counting. From here, our journey turns toward waking, a return not to the past or the dream, but to the space between them, where quiet has learned your name. You wake to silence so clean it feels freshly polished. No roosters, no bells, no rain waiting at the window. Just the sound of your own breathing, slow and unhurried. The air around you is too even, too measured. The scent of smoke and wool is gone. You reach out instinctively for the rough edge of the wooden wall, for the cool stone floor, but find smoothness instead. Your fingers brush crisp cotton, the faint hum of an electric heater, and the quiet confidence of the modern world. For a long moment, you don't move. The body hesitates before the mind catches up, unsure which time it belongs to. The faint glow of your clock fills the room with blue light. It reads 4:37 in the morning. The numbers blink like a small heartbeat, steady and sure. You smile at them, as if greeting an old friend you no longer need to understand. You sit up slowly. The sheets are clean and scentless, the air filtered and obedient. Outside the window, city lights shimmer faintly through the glass. Somewhere, far away, a car hums past like an echo that forgot its purpose. You feel the quiet pressing against your skin, not heavy but oddly fragile, as though the silence could break if you spoke too quickly. You stand, bare feet on polished floor, and cross to the window. The city lies beneath you like a sleeping machine. Rows of rooftops, quiet streets, the dim promise of dawn. It's beautiful in a way, controlled, contained. You rest your forehead against the glass. It's cool, smooth, without scent or texture. For a brief, impossible moment, you miss the roughness of wood, the uneven breath of a thatched roof, the honest imperfection of sound. You close your eyes and listen harder. Somewhere in your memory, the world you left still hums. The steady rhythm of the forge, the soft bell at dusk, the low laughter rising from the tavern. You can almost smell the smoke on your clothes again, almost feel the ache in your hands. The silence of your room begins to feel too clean, too edited. You reach out to touch the air, as though it might remember the shape of another life. You look at your desk. A phone lies there, silent, obedient, screen black. You hesitate before picking it up. It feels heavier than you remember. You turn it in your hands, waiting for the familiar vibration, the blink, the pull. Nothing. You press the button and the screen lights up. Bright, sterile, impersonal. No messages, no missed calls, no urgency. Just time, digital and exact. You put it down carefully, as if afraid to wake it. You walk to the kitchen. The floor is cold beneath your feet, but clean in a way that feels unearned. You fill a glass with water. It runs clear and instant. No bucket, no rope, no well. You drink slowly. It tastes of nothing. The simplicity feels suspicious. You swallow again, trying to find the flavour of effort. It isn't there. You almost laugh at yourself for missing the weight of a jug. Back in your room, you sit on the edge of the bed. The clock still blinks. The seconds move forward in perfect rhythm, but it feels less like progress and more like insistence. You realise that time in your world doesn't breathe, it ticks. You close your eyes, breathing deeply, trying to hear something more organic. It takes a few moments, but then it arrives. The faint pulse behind your ribs, steady as a bell, quiet as the hum of wind through wheat. You smile. The rhythm hasn't left you, it simply moved inside. The thought brings calm instead of sadness. You realise that what the villagers had wasn't an escape from time. It was a different way of keeping it. Bells instead of alarms, smoke instead of clocks, rhythm instead of deadlines. The pulse of living things rather than the hum of machines. You can't go back, not really. But you can listen differently now. You lie back down, eyes open to the ceiling's soft shadows. The mind begins its usual habit of counting, measuring, explaining. You stop it with a breath. The old rhythm returns. Inhale, forge, exhale, river. Inhale, bread, exhale, bell. The room changes around you. Not visibly, but in weight. The air grows warmer, slower. You imagine the village stirring, the faint sound of hammers and laughter, smoke curling into the morning. Somewhere, a rooster decides the world is worth starting again. You turn to your side and glance once more at the clock. 4:37 has become 4:38. The number means nothing now. What matters is the space between them, the small, invisible pause that holds everything together. You let your eyelids close, and for a moment, you feel as if the bed beneath you is made of straw again, the blanket heavy with smoke and history. You hear footsteps that aren't there. Someone carrying water, someone singing softly off-key, someone laughing at the simplicity of survival. You almost smell the bread baking, the faint sting of ash, the damp air of dawn. Your lips curve into a smile you don't plan. The room breathes once, so do you. It's the same breath, divided by centuries. You think of the villagers still asleep in their small homes, of fires still glowing under layers of ash, of stars fading above the roofs. The image feels real enough to touch. You whisper a small, absurd good night, or good morning, whichever it is. And for the first time since waking, you realise you're not trying to decide if it was dream or memory. It doesn't matter. Both are real enough to keep. What you brought back with you isn't proof, it's presence. The steady quiet between breaths, the rhythm that refuses to fade. You open your eyes once more. The clock blinks, obedient and sure. The city is still dark. You could get up, start the day, resume the endless noise. Instead, you stay where you are. The silence feels earned now. You close your eyes, and in that small darkness the village returns, not as a place, but as a feeling. You hear the bell ring softly somewhere behind your eyelids. The sound is round, warm, familiar. It lingers long after silence should have taken it away. You smile again, half expecting the rooster. Nothing comes, only breath. Whether it was dream, memory, or time's quiet mistake no longer matters. You have brought back what you needed. The rhythm, the stillness, the proof that existence can hum instead of shout. The clock blinks once more. The light feels less electric now, more like candle flame remembering what it used to be. You breathe in, you breathe out. The village keeps breathing, somewhere behind your eyelids.